starting now. Yep.
Okay,
10-second
I'm
delay.
actually switching chairs with me.
Yeah.
It's mostly because this one doesn't come up high enough to hold the heat pad the right way.
Wow, you're already in.
We can also get you like a pillow.
No,
a high
it's all
back
good.
pillow.
It's mostly just that I need this guy like up against like my mid back.
Okay.
Because that's where it's.
I just want you to be as comfortable as we can make you.
Thank you so much. I will trade you chairs.
Will this one be better?
Oh, he was good.
This
Okay.
one's got quite a high back.
So that's it. Yeah, that was what I was missing.
Does it come from the boat?
I swear we're gonna play it. Really, just don't go away yet.
We're not gonna play the game.
You guys are playing musical chairs.
This is a stream.
All
This is
good.
a stream about playing D&D.
We got 4 people. Hey, 2 of my friends are watching.
Yay!
It's a stream about nothing.
Okay.
You wore the appropriate.
Why was the audio not working for it?
Because I hadn't selected my microphone.
Oh, there you go. Now we're good.
Yeah. So now we should be good. And then this.
Every so often I'll walk away and we'll check about it. Just make sure I'm good.
The only thing is this, I think, needs to go right over here.
I was in the forest with my friend Sacramento.
There we go.
This crazy idea.
What's this candy deal?
Yeah, I brought high chews. If anybody is allowed to eat high chews, they do have gelatin in them. So, yeah, unfortunately. I know. Rather unfortunately, I learned that one the hard way when one of my other vegetarian friends ate one and then went, wow, this is really good. And then looked at the ingredients and went,
I mean, I don't
That's
freak out
bad
that
enough.
much when I get gelatin because I feel like it's such a common byproduct. It's like
is.
the one thing where I'm like, I try to avoid it, but I'm like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do know quite a few vegetarians who like gelatin is one of the things where it's like, I'm not vegan. It's right on the line.
yeah.
But
It is officially almost 7:15.
it is. And 7:15 is our
Let's
official
play
go
a
live
game.
time. Alrighty.
Do you want to play a game?
Let's go!
Do you
Alrighty.
want to play a game?
Well,
Here we go.
I don't know if I am.
There you go.
It's time for a dungeon. Or a dragon.
Remember, don't make music gotta be a little bit.
oh no, I
I can't
know.
even hear you right now. What?
Alrighty, so
Dicecream Sandwich!
hello everyone. Welcome to tonight's episode of Dicecream Sandwich, competing directly with Critical Role.
We're the underdog.
We won't give a fuck. We are continuing the campaign, episode 2 officially. Episode 0 was done, and episode 1 was last week of our Curse of Strahd campaign. Recap of last session. You guys had managed to escape after not knowing where you were when you woke up from the castle of Strahd von Zarevich, making your way out of the castle and then down into the woods outside. One of your party tragically was whisked away by some dark cloaked figure, and about 30 feet off the path you managed to make your way through the forest, find the body lying fairly limp in a tree, and then looking down at the ground, Allura found a disembodied head of one of your party members staring back at you, the first casualty of Barovia.
Right off the bat.
Immediately following that, a new party member happened to swing into action, saving the party from a massive onslaught of twig blights that would have surely overtaken the entire party.
Badass man.
Making your way through the forest, you managed to avoid an encounter with several wolves, thanks to some very good survival checks from your newest party member. Staying off the path, and then a group stealth check, you made it through the forest and into the village of Barovia, where you found very little. A lot of empty houses, but almost all of them empty. One very disinterested family that you tried to just speak to through a series of boarded up wooden slats, who just kept telling you to go away, and you kept reaching in trying to grab them on the other side of the wall. Eventually leaving that and finding a mid-30s or maybe early 40s woman just weeping uncontrollably to herself, clutching a doll inside her house. Unable to really solve anything there, just able to see the few details about the doll. Moving on from there, you found your way to the local tavern, meeting with Ismark, the son of the local burgomaster, aka burgermeister. The burgermaster, Burgerman, the village leader, essentially, who had tragically died a few days previously. After a brief conversation with him and him realizing what you had done to get out of the castle, you managed to make your way through the village and over to the burgomaster's home, where his sister Irina is currently holed up, apparently being desired in some way by the Count Strahd. You discussed with her, and she eventually relented and was willing to accompany you out of the city at her brother's behest. And we last left off that you were going to be burying her now several day dead father in the local cemetery. And the last thing that you saw was standing outside the mansion, a very well-dressed man standing by himself in the dirt with long brown hair rolling down the back of his head, his face gaunt and sharply angled with skin stretched taut across it, a distinct lack of natural color across his entire body. A small black cloak draped around his shoulders with metal spalders adorning each side, all clasped on his chest by a diamond-cut ruby the size of a fist. Beneath the ruby, a red leather tunic fits snugly around his frame, showing clearly defined musculature and a familiar crest that has been woven into the leather. At his waist, a wicked-looking hilt of a longsword is sheathed in a finely crafted scabbard, with assorted gems stitched into the leather, and one of his hands is mindlessly playing with a large diamond embedded in the pommel of his weapon. Irina, the burgomaster's daughter, stands sword drawn in front of her, shaking, and a single tear just starts to roll down her cheek as she's just trying to keep herself composed as best she can, having not said anything to the figure outside.
I believe I'm still in the bathtub.
You are still in the bathtub.
I'm still taking a bath in
In the
cold
bathtub.
water.
Yes, in the ice-cold water that you did manage to barely pull in from the well before dark completely fell.
Yeah. Almost killing us all.
Why is everyone quiet down there?
Oh boy. Didn't we hear howling?
Yeah, was there other noises?
Yeah.
Other...
So you started to hear some of that kind of behind the creature's voice. His voice essentially calling out for Irina. You're not entirely sure if he's aware that you're there yet, but they did seem to be kind of on the edge of the forest that kind of is near the backside of the burgomaster's house.
Can I see into the forest? Can I see far enough that it's... I'm gonna try and do the Irish accent in character, but not out of character. I'm I can't hold this up the entire time.
Don't worry.
Can I see into the forest far enough to see what's out there?
Go ahead and make a perception check. And you are a half-elf?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Full elf. I'm a drow elf.
Drow elf, never mind, yeah. So
Yeah.
you do not get disadvantage for this. Go ahead and roll.
Just trying to make this a little bit.
Yep.
Perception. Oh yeah, this system this week. 18.
18.
Mhm.
Alrighty, so looking out, you see this man kind of through a slat, very much trying to keep to the shadows a little bit, trying to prevent yourself from being able to be seen. You see him. You don't really notice anything in the distance, but you definitely hear it. You can't quite see what it is yet, but there are growls, snarls, but then you also just hear heavy breathing, like labored sounds kind of coming out of the forest on the
Does
backside.
it sound like what we heard in the castle?
Similar, but louder. The ones in the castle seem to be, when they were in the dark at least, silent. It was only when they were in the light that they were really audible. With this, it's definitely louder.
I'm gonna shout down to the party and go, does anybody have a towel? I don't have any towels up here. What? Why are you shushing me?
Are there torches in the hall, like that are lit or unlit?
There are, it's actually candles. You're inside a mansion, so they've got candelabras around, and they are lit. You notice that Ismark, though, is very quickly going around and trying to extinguish a few candles, and just kind of continues on from there.
I'm gonna basically storm into
The bath.
into the bath and just...
Shut up, dingus over here.
I take it, are we all standing in the foyer or?
So you were mostly standing in the foyer. Those of you who had helped bring the water up to the bathroom, and then dump it into the bathtub with your Triton compatriot. The rest of you were mostly just standing as Irina and Ismark were telling you what had been going on between them and the Count, and explaining her stories of what happened to her father as he was taking his bath.
Is there a second floor? Remind me.
There is a second floor. Yep.
And it's just like a staircase up. And you
Yeah.
can still see
Essentially, it's just off the main foyer. There's a single staircase up, and then it opens up onto both
That's
sides,
what I am.
and then a series of bedrooms and bathrooms
No,
upstairs.
you're not. You're like literally, the door is open. We can see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I just walked
Yeah.
It's,
over and like.
so you're into the main foyer.
I thought it was
There's
upstairs.
no.
That's
You're into the main foyer. There is a staircase on your left, which goes up to a series of bedrooms and bathrooms. You're on the right, just beside the room where the burgomaster's body is, inside a very rough-cut wooden box. And then you went into that room and kind of closed the door that squeaked about halfway closed, and then you just screw it, and then you had your bath anyways.
Right. So still closed.
Yeah.
He's not. No, my voice is struggling.
Struggling.
He's not. Can this person get in?
He needs an invitation. Irina revoked his last time, and it forced him out the front. Whatever this is, we need to ride it out. I don't even want to set foot outside for fear of falling under his gaze again.
Can he curse an invitation out of us?
Not as far as I'm aware. Irina would be the expert on this, and he looks over at his sister, and she just kind of... No, he can't. It has to be willing. He can beguile you, he can encourage you to come out, but he cannot force you to say something that you would not normally say. At least he never has with me.
How does he force us?
He appeals to your inner desires. And she instinctively just kind of takes the sword and just like stabs it into the ground and kind of holds it there, and then, Strahd,
Oh boy.
Like this.
Ugh.
you have been told to leave. I do not want anything to do with you. I need you gone, away from my house, away from my father, and leave me alone. And there's a brief pause, and you notice that the sounds, you especially, the ones outside, start to subside a little bit, as if listening to this plea. And then kind of, you notice looking out that Strahd is kind of looking at the house a little bit, and was expecting a faster response. And then, Irina, my dear, are you alone? Are you in that house with your brother? Or anyone else, perchance? And she just kind of freezes and just does this to the rest of you.
So he can't see us right now? He's only seeing her?
No, he can't.
The windows are all
see
boarded.
The windows are all boarded up. You've been
We're
looking...
just hearing a voice.
You're
Yeah,
just
yeah.
hearing the voice outside.
I'm peering through the slot.
And you're peering through just like very narrow like splinters that have been made in the wood where you're barely able to see anything, but your really high perception roll has allowed you to see enough, especially with your drow vision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And she just kind of goes silent again, and then is just awaiting a response. Is there anything you guys would like to do?
Irina, is it beneficial for him to know we're here for him? Should we keep secretive that we're here?
I don't know.
She told us to be quiet. It might be wise for us to do so.
That's an element of surprise. Do nothing but benefit us.
I agree.
Yeah, it's really good.
I never was much of a quiet person anyway.
My
dear
guests! Is that you that I hear in there?
No.
While this office is going on, the doctor's going to scurry up to the second floor and take position behind a banister.
Sounds good. So you
managed to duck behind. On the second floor, the slats are a little bit more open. Looking outside, you can see a lot more. It appears that whatever they were training against was mostly meant to guard against the ground floor. Also up there, and especially you as well, you start to hear that whatever those sounds were start to return stronger now, and as if whatever they are approaching faster on the mansion.
Can I see anything out the windows on the side?
Make a perception check.
I was gonna say, if I could also go up there and take a peek.
Yeah,
of course.
Well, that's not going to do anything. I rolled a 1.
One.
Add your perception.
Oh, 3.
Three. Okay. You hear things.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's a 7.
It's a 7. You also hear things. Yeah.
Irina, you have my sword. Get behind me.
She just is still kind of frozen, just like hand shaking slightly, just holding the sword in the ground. Just kind of, she kind of nods to you. Thank you.
Irina, tell him to leave again.
Strahd,
and at this point he interrupts and I was so hoping you would stay at the castle. But I must admit that I'm rather impressed you were able to make it out intact. You, Irina, a brother, surprising enough. Well, most of you, that is. It was a little tasty. But I've been so bored with the talent that's brought to my domain lately. It's so good to see the living can still amuse me. I do hope you continue to do so as we move forward. It's just so much more fun to break your spirits before I break your bodies.
This guy's kind of a dingus.
I'm gonna go up to Irina and be like, why are you so afraid of a dead thing? Vampires aren't even really like people.
They're much worse than people.
The Triton race spits on half-souled bodies.
How old are you, my dear Triton?
I am 90 years old.
Strahd is 900 years old. You have no idea the power that he holds. He has single-handedly enslaved this entire realm. He's created a demi-plane removed from the real world, from the material world, on his own. He did that.
Is that a spare pencil that I can
My race took over 80% of the world when we were first coming to the
Yes, your race did that.
We've dealt with worse things before.
Is your race here to help you?
I am the race.
And
you notice that she actually kind of stops shaking for a second and starts chuckling to herself a little bit.
What is funny? Did I say something funny? I've been told I do that sometimes.
I do appreciate your bravado. What was your name again?
Les Paul.
Les Paul.
That's right.
Les. I appreciate your bravado in the face of this creature, but you have no idea what you are stepping into.
Enlighten us. What can we do? What, like,
There
we're
is
here,
nothing.
we're in a
Not
land.
came up against us yet. I agree with Les Paul.
Now that the noises are louder, can I check out the windows again?
Yeah, go for it.
Irina, has your found any silver you can use against this creature?
21.
We any real form of silver was taken from most of the households. Even the coin that we refer to as silver are more just dulled iron than anything. On a 21 perception check?
Yeah.
So on 21, looking out, again, kind of clarifying your vision now, especially with these threats, you're like really focusing and making sure what you see. You do start to notice that there are shambling creatures that start to be coming out of the woods behind the burgomaster's home. They look similar to the ones that you saw abduct people when you were in the cages, but as weird as it sounds for a dead creature, more dead. They have whatever taut white skin was on their bodies is starting to almost rot off, and you notice large gaping wounds that normally would be bleeding, but instead are just kind of covered in a black film that is dripping as if they had just come up from the ground and were bleeding the earth out of them.
Yeah. So Strahd's in front of the house, yeah?
Strahd is behind the house on the side of the woods, and the creatures are all encroaching behind him, but he is very much standing out in the open, whereas they are just kind of getting out of the woods at this point. And you do notice that in addition to these extra dead-style creatures, there are also a series of wolves, and two specifically very large wolves.
Creatures roughly?
Roughly 14, 16 that you can see currently coming out of the woods. There could be more that just haven't stepped out yet.
Okay, I want to relay that information.
Yeah, sounds good.
If they're going to come from all sides, we might as well start getting ready to batten the hatches, as you
So
say.
they're coming from the back.
I think we need to prepare, but we should also try to avoid a fight. There's too many of them.
Agree. If Strahd can't get into his creatures, then they take us out.
His creatures were what killed my father, but they were only able to essentially scare him to death, I believe. They were never able to breach, try as they might. I don't know if this is something where they can't, or if they were just simply unable to.
So you have to invite them in too?
I don't know. They tried for several weeks and were unable to. They broke a lot of the boards and the security measures that we made, but they were unable to actually break through.
Then once we're inside, we're fine. From what I know from vampires, you can't let them in. Like, you need to invite them in for it to work.
If you want to
You learned that from Irina, like 5 minutes ago.
Don't tell me
you were
what
just
I mean.
jamming A past the like NPC text or something like this.
Dicecream Sandwich. I
Listen.
think we should all retire to one room, and that way we can all protect one another. We know the entrances, the exits.
But we know
and
the
that
entrances
way.
and exits of this main hall.
Yes, I think we should keep an eyesight of these creatures and at least see where they're coming from or if they're able to breach the perimeter. We wouldn't like fire.
No.
There is that. I can light arrows on fire and fire at them from a window.
I don't think we should instigate.
What entrances and exits do we have in the main hall where we are?
So Irina and Ismark show you that there's the main entrance that you came in, the front one, which has now been boarded up again. And there's a large wooden plank across, very similar to when you came out of the castle.
Let's not move that.
So the two double doors are barred. They open inwards, and they're barred by that right now. So that's looking fairly secure. There is a back exit as well, but it's more of just a simple door. Think like a garden-style single door, and that has just been boarded up with a series of nails and wooden slats. It also looks fairly secure. Whatever the measures were made, it very much made it look like the main entrance was the only way to get in or out. Whereas right now, you're all at the back of the building, and you're kind of peering out through like a kitchen area through a series of broken slats in the windows.
Can I do like a quick kind of tour of both the first floor and the second floor and see if there's any reinforcing I can do?
Sure. Go ahead and I would need to be one person per floor. So if you'd like to have somebody help you. Yeah. Okay. So I'll get both of you to please make investigation checks and let me know if you want to do first floor or second floor.
I'll do second floor.
First, it's a 12.
It's a 12. Okay. And investigation.
9.
So second floor.
The second floor, you go up and you look around, and everything looks about as well done as could be. There are definitely some windows that could use a little bit more boarding up, but you're not really able to find the materials to do it. It looks like the majority of it was done on the main floor, and the second floor was kind of an afterthought. Like whatever these creatures are, they couldn't get up there. First floor, it looks pretty well fortified. There's a few extra pieces of wood, but you don't really see anything to nail it, anything to the wall with. There's no screws or nails of any kind. If you could find a way to affix them to the second floor, it might help reinforce those. But
Boards that are like broken in particular? Or?
any of the ones that were broken have been reinforced by an additional board. There's no real entrances that are left to be made.
Irina, tell this jerk to beat it.
If Strahd has come here personally, he recognizes that your group has some kind of power, and he's interested in that. I suppose that's enough for me to trust your strength if he's here with all of his creatures. Once the morning comes, we'll bury my father. I'll pack my things. You make sure that the road is clear. We'll follow you out of the road. But you need to tell me where we're going, because I was under his spell so long that I don't know what I would want to do if it were not in this village.
Do you have a map of Barovia in this house? Is there any sort of, because we're not from this land, so we don't, we would have...
Real quick. Sorry to interrupt
That's
you,
okay.
lady. Ismark, my old friend.
So what can I do for you?
You told us you had planned to take her out of town.
I did.
Where are you taking her?
Well, we had planned to go. There's an area not too far. Oh God, sorry. This trying to remember.
Steady yourself, old man.
Is everyone that you meet an old friend?
That's right, old friend.
How old are
I
you?
want to take my sister to the village of Valaki. It's several days travel. There will be a few rest points in between here and there, places that we can stay inside, but it will not be something that we can simply go to in a day. It will be several days of travel.
What?
And you've been there before.
I haven't. I've just heard that it's a safe place from the priest.
Priest?
The man of the church.
Very well. As priest.
Do you trust this priest?
As much as I trust anyone else in this town.
Which church?
The one that we are going to bury our father tomorrow. It's on the north end of the town. Now we're on the south. We just follow the main road, and there's the church, priest, and the cemetery.
Which gods do you pray to?
Cool ones or lame ones?
Neither. After everything that has transpired, I am not a man of faith.
I'm actually, when Pope asked that, I'm actually made it down a lot. Actually, that needs to go to few signs of pale word in here. Just kind of spotted it when I came in. Nothing big, but...
Yes. My father, our father, prayed to Halo, the Dawn Father, Morning Lord. Not a god of the sun, but after everything that has transpired with all of his prayers seem to fall unanswered and his life being taken, there is nothing left for me, at least in the world of the gods.
And the church that we're taking to bury your father at, that is the Church of Palor?
Church of Palor, the Morning Lord. Yes.
Milady Arena, know you anything about this? Wallachia.
Wallachia, I don't. It's an area that my brother has said is safe. But he is hearing it secondhand. At this point, anything outside of this village is all that we're looking to try and get me to.
I've been here for 3 months and I just want any kind of fun, so I'm ready to do whatever you need me to do.
No, we wouldn't know. Never mind. I had a dumb question.
What have you been outside of the village before?
I've been to the castle.
Oh, great.
So if we...
I just
Not
don't
a great
remember how I got there. I just remember having to leave.
Same with us.
How'd you bring a spell last?
I don't know. It just my mind went clouded in things that I couldn't remember to suddenly being present.
You are strong, and you have us. We are your strength.
I don't mean to interrupt, but there's an angry, sexy man outside with an army of zombie wolves.
That's a pressing concern.
You all talk too much, and I go from the party and I go up to the roof on top.
Out of the building?
Yeah.
Okay, so going up to the second floor, there is currently no way to get to the roof. You need to break boards on the windows if you wanted to crawl out onto a window ledge and then scale up to the roof.
As soon as I get up to the stairs, I shout, "Is there any way to get out onto the roof?"
And then outside you just kind of hear, "Please come visit me. It's been so long since you escaped."
I did it last time. Who's going to take care of this time?
Yeah, I don't think you should listen to him.
Old friend.
I start like looking around for like a way to get
Old friend, this isn't worth your trouble. Stay inside. Get back in that bath you like so much.
That man's been hunting me for 3
Hey,
months.
we'll get him. Don't you worry, friend. We'll get him good. But for now,
At this
The
point,
best option is to stay inside, to stay together.
at
At this point you just hear,
"Oh,
this has become tiresome.
oh well.
Irina, I do hope you'll reconsider my offer. And in the meantime, the rest of you, have fun." And then you just hear a... And the figure that was standing outside is gone, and kind of adjusting your eyes a little bit, you notice that a fairly large bat has taken its place and is starting to fly very quickly off over the forest. And at this point, looking out now, those creatures that had emerged from the forest, some of the wolves have gone back into the forest, but whatever these undead creatures are have approached the mansion, and it looks like there's about 7 of them, 8 of them. Anybody looking outside at the moment, and you can hear them getting closer and shambling footsteps, and then pounding of foot on the ground, and then eventually, good 10-15 seconds later, you just start to hear like throwing their bodies against the doors and hammering fists against any windows that they can see.
Finally, a little bit of fun.
Oh boy.
I just like get ready.
Okay.
Everybody stands.
So you're upstairs.
You're currently upstairs.
And And that kind of is like waiting for them to like
What's he doing?
come to the house. I didn't like that a little bit.
Irina, stay behind me. I shall protect you.
I do appreciate that, but I don't know if there's much reason to. These creatures failed to get in for several weeks. I would rather not break up defenses. Just leave you to have a fight.
We'll remain here, but...
Can I see any of them out the window?
You can certainly now, yeah. So the skin on their bodies did appear to once be human skin or human flesh, has now gotten to that taut stage that the rest of the vampire spawn did, but then has just kind of torn and started to chafe off. And they very much have got like eyes that are swelling out of their heads. Some of them are missing chunks out of their heads, or entire hands are gone, and they're just kind of formless blobs that just seem to be hammering on these windows with a substantial amount of strength, but currently unable to break through, whether it's due to their strength or their sheer lack of intelligence, you're not sure.
Could we?
Say if we wanted to. I'm not saying we will, but if we wanted to. Take pot shots at them from the windows.
The slats on the second floor are big enough if somebody would like to take a bow or anything up there and start shooting.
I can do that.
I mean, I got my Eldritch Blast.
I had my trying.
Okay, hold on.
In the meantime, I'm still looking out
Second
the
floor.
front window, and I have the undead
There's
favorite
nothing
enemy.
on the first floor. So undead favorite enemy.
Can I tell anything about them that we can't? It's not obvious. From
What does favorite enemy do for you exactly?
That's
I mean, I think I can
Favorite enemy.
learn more things about it. Yes, thank you.
This is our first
You just want D&D.
book look.
Yeah. I have advantage on survival checks to track them and intelligence checks to recall information about them.
Okay.
Yes.
So recalling information about them. Go ahead. Yeah, we'll get you to make a. I'll make this a history check, and it is an intelligence-based check, so you get the advantage on it.
Yeah. I'm gonna move this guy just over it.
Oh yeah.
So
Move the
I-
dice back where you need to.
Thank you. 19 plus.
With advantage.
Yeah. My intelligence is 0, so it's just 19.
History.
Yeah.
Okay.
0.
And with advantage. So roll again to take higher history.
Oh yeah, great.
Just in case.
With advantage. 17.
17. Okay.
Don't waste all my good rolls.
So with the 19, these creatures are undead. They appear to be some variation on a zombie. You would guess that they were turned to vampire spawn, and then through either Strahd's anger or frustration or just general use, they eventually died in their vampire spawn form and were kind of resurrected as zombies. So
But they have the power of vampire spawn.
they
essentially.
don't have the power of vampire spawn. They revert back to what their abilities were, and they did just appear to be human, even through all the bloody, terribleness. They did appear to just be human, but you do know that with the 19, especially, that these creatures are something that are incredibly difficult to kill. They hit relatively hard. They can take a decent amount of damage, but what would normally be a
lethal blow may not actually be lethal to these, and they seem to be pinned to walls by weapons and kind of pull themselves off of walls when you once thought that they were dead.
Is there a particular weakness that they would have, or an area of the body that we should attempt to hit them on?
Area of the body, heads, it's a little bit tough because their arms do kind of flail in the middle of it. There is a little bit of a weakness to fire, but not particularly beyond maybe just preventing the regeneration.
Do you have a ranged weapon?
I do.
Okay.
I think it sounds like we might be best just trying to rest through the noise and having one person keep watch at a time, rather than waste our weapons or cavalry at each other.
It's true, I only have so many arrows in this land.
Apologies, I was not actually firing. It's radiant damage.
Radiant.
Radiant damage,
What
correct.
is that from? Like
Radiant is like
weapons?
holy weapons. There are certain spells that deal radiant. Yeah, think of it like holy damage.
Okay. So if I like lit arrows on fire, it wouldn't make any difference.
Correct.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
So it's been a minute since I had looked up the zombie stat block. They're a low level enemy. Not.
Like kind of, but not really.
Like kind of like you'll like one-on-one you'll definitely die. Probably, maybe. I don't know.
And there's 7 of them.
7 of them currently, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say we don't
I mean, they're not going to get stronger if we take pot shots at them. From
They
the
can't get
second
through the
floor.
doorway. Home is sacred. I vote we keep watch. I only need 4 hours and I can see it dark, so I'd suggest someone else take the first watch and I'll take the last.
I can take the first one.
I'll do the first one with you.
I shall rest. Irina, you should also rest, and Ismark for the travel ahead.
I'm going to put on my eye mask. Take a seat.
Can't travel without it.
Well, at this point, the sounds of the creatures scrabbling against the walls outside do fill your ears. But your surprise, Ismark and Irina, seeing the rest of you kind of sit down and prepare for sleep, actually kind of gesture for you to get up and lead you up to the second floor where there are staterooms. You have full beds, all the pillows you can imagine, every kind of luxury that you would ever want to have. 4 poster beds for everyone. You would easily be able to get a good, proper night's sleep.
Wow, I've never experienced such luxury.
Get used to it,
we
old
should get
friend.
back into the bath.
The bomb.
The bath.
We're taking turns to watch. We're not going to attack. They're very difficult to kill, and we need to preserve our arrows. Likewise.
We shouldn't be able to get through our defenses. They're just here to scare us.
We need to rest.
Imagine one of those dead who'd do it himself.
Think of the bathtub.
We need a long rest.
We need to be at full strength for tomorrow.
I can't be reasonable.
Would you like to sleep in a proper stateroom 4-poster bed? Or your
I
bathtub?
prefer the bathtub.
Okay.
Thank
Oh,
you
then you
very
can
much.
keep watch for us.
So, keeping watch. Who is keeping watch first?
Me and Lee.
2. Okay. And second? Okay.
Is my trident made of silver?
It is not.
Damn.
I'll take watch with Elise.
Okay. And then last watch is you 2. Perfect. Alrighty. So, the noises continue throughout the night, and even with proper beds, a good night's rest is difficult to find until the sounds abruptly stop. You realize the first peaks of light begin to spill through the gaps in the windows and holes in the walls of the mansion, and the creatures begin to shamble off into the woods. You do notice that their skins is almost kind of steaming slightly as they're walking away. Yeah.
So does that mean we got a full night's rest?
You did.
Or a long
So everybody
rest?
is considered as getting a full rest. So any abilities that you regain on a full rest, long rest, you have all those back. So Emma, in your case, that will be for your divine sense.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. I was like, that's key. We need that back.
Yeah. And it is now the following morning. Irina and Ismark wake up looking not well rested. They've been through this a few times before, but it does seem to definitely scare them every time. And they kind of prepare everything for the ceremony, getting their father's box that he's in dressed and ready for travel. And it's about 30 minutes or so walk carrying the box to get to the other side of the village.
Can I stop before we leave and say, can we prepare all of the things we need for travel? Rations, extra. You said you had extra kind of supplies and things. Ishmark said.
Yeah, so
he would provide
Yep. So Ismark kind of pulls together a series of rations. There are some that because they've been living in the village, they've been able to get, it's not good food by any stretch, but it's at least fresh. And they're able to take a few things that'll probably last for a few days, and then give or take about an extra 2 weeks of rations for everybody.
Okay.
And so that is currently in store with them.
Okay.
But the primary thing in Irina's case is to get her father to the cemetery.
Yes. And then can I ask again, because I didn't get an answer before, Ishmark or Irina, do you have a map of Barovia anywhere in the house?
And Ismark kind of closes his eyes for a minute and thinks, and kind of looks to his sister, and they kind of share a bit of a glance, and she eventually kind of gestures and goes upstairs and into one of the staterooms, and then you just hear smash, crash, and a series of glass shattering across the ground, and eventually comes down with a small cut on her hand, and then pulls out a fairly large map of general area. It doesn't really give you specifics, but it does at least give you what the lay of the land looks like. And I'll go ahead and screenshot this and send it to you guys.
Oh, the world map.
World map.
My phone's being used for the camera.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, yeah.
So give me a sec here. It's just going to take me a second to pull this up because I need to
Are
screenshot.
we thinking that we should just leave straight from the church first, everyone? What's the plan here?
And I love it.
I don't notice it. That's what
We will need to pack our things. If you can take us to the church, help us bury our father, and then make sure that the route out of the city is clear, then we would be able to join you at the exit, or you could come back once you know that the route is clear.
How much light do we need to get far clear from Strahd's reach?
How much light?
How much today?
I'd say that at this point, we should leave no later than midday.
We should probably check on Anthea at the end. Make sure she hasn't got herself into too much trouble.
Should we do that after go to the church?
Aye, or well, these two are prepping themselves. Perhaps us could pick up
Yeah, I can do that.
Oh my gosh.
how good they're both
Taking me in.
hold that.
Okay.
I'm gonna travel with my partner.
I mean, it is.
Be more for us to pass by the inn on the way to the church or after on our way out of town? Which is better?
I think we should just
Probably on our way out.
Why don't we all go as a party while these
That's
two
what I'm
are?
saying.
Yeah.
No, I think we should do it all together. I think we should stay
we'll
together.
be carrying our father to the church, so stopping in at the inn isn't really.
Can we just park a casket outside?
If you want,
It's a mobile wake,
But
so
on our way back from, so the church is on the north end of the town. We're on the south. The western exit is where we'll need to go to get further into the land. So we would come south past the inn, which is kind of in the middle area, and we would be able to stop in on our way back. We would continue on if you would then continue west and check that the exit is clear.
Okay. Maybe we should just
Let's go.
let's go and quickly check on Anthea. I mean, I'm not Anthea.
I'm not worried about the ladies. It's more I want to see if I'm thinking about watching her. They were interesting characters.
I see your. I see that. Okay.
Okay. Give me 1 second here. I'm just going to send you guys the map.
Wanted to.
all life has meaning.
Think you can wrangle this one? Do you want some help with Anthea and this one?
We have to dig.
I'll go with, but someone else should do the talking.
Are we?
Oh boy.
We're going.
Oh yeah, a drow elf
With low charisma.
with low charisma, a furbolg,
And a fishman.
a fishman.
Welcome to
I will go.
That's like a
also.
D&D racist joke. Like a drow elf, a furbolg, and a fishman
Oh,
walk into a bar.
A drow, Furbolg, and a Triton walk into a bar. They all die.
Okay, I think that we should limit the amount of. We should definitely have a human in
Perhaps
that.
one of you normal
Yeah.
human folks
Seems
should
like
go.
The
Just
map has
me.
been sent if you guys are able to pull it up.
That seems like a lot of people to go to.
Thank you, Siri.
Yeah. No,
Just send me like will be good.
No.
I don't think so.
Why
That's
don't you,
not.
like-
We're not.
Wait, you guys need a human.
We,
Bring on.
yeah, we should do just 2 people so that it's quick.
Thunder doesn't seem to care about much in this world.
No
I don't
one
know
here
if you'd-
cares about anything.
I don't think he'd really care about us.
They're all so simple.
Those women.
Women love.
All right, friends.
The West.
All right.
I'm
People are gonna go
confused.
to
You're
the tavern. 4 people are gonna go to
You guys do this.
the. Yeah, that's good for you guys.
Can I roll a strength check to carry the casket?
Sure. Go ahead and make a strength
I was
check.
gonna say, didn't we figure that we were gonna pass by the tavern on the way back?
So it's okay. So this is the village.
Yeah.
It's in
Yeah.
right through the middle,
And
and then this is the exit, the western side
Yeah.
from your
So
guys'
you would
perspective.
need
Yeah.
You guys, so you're literally split. is that they're going back to everything. You're escorting them north, and then escorting them back.
Okay. Because it's in the center, right?
I don't. Let's go bury a body. The body.
Let the body hit the ground.
And just to clarify, is that the castle right there?
That is the castle, yes.
Is that it works as you could have out the shop. Will not as well put the spaces.
No, but it works till the ground. It's a smart call.
I think I'll just plant crops, maybe.
I planted a few. They didn't. They went off the
Did not take.
They were supposed to.
So it's safe to say we are moving on to the church.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Just another.
So it'll take 4 people to carry the casket with the body in it.
I can carry it.
I
Previous
have
strength.
no strength
not
with which to
strong.
do this.
Yeah, I'm strong.
Then we take care of the casket.
Let's assist us.
Alright.
So they're sort of like where I'm.
Can I help them?
You're essentially doing a pallbearer, like up on one shoulder.
Yeah, I'm
one
probably
shoulder.
like this. If everyone else is
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, you're kind of holding it in your chest.
Can I help them lift the casket?
What is your strength modifier? What was your strength score? Sorry. 16. Yes.
He's a big.
He's a bacon. Alrighty. So, making your way north, you do make your way through. Nothing really comes in. Eventually passing by the tavern, which doesn't appear to have really opened yet. It is still fairly early in the morning at this point. Top of Slit Rise stands a great sagging edifice of stone and wood that has obviously weathered the assaults of evil for centuries on end. Now worn and weary, even in this drab space, a bell tower rises towards the back, and flickering light shines through holes in the shingled roof where the rafters strain feebly against their load. As you approach, you see the seemingly trademark sign of claw marks and fire scorch marks across the double doors. Behind the dilapidated church, a fence of wrought iron with a rusty gate encloses a large plot of land where tightly packed gravestones lay shrouded, even by fog in this early morning.
This place does not have a good feeling to it.
Anything strange about the graveyard?
Should I use my divine sense?
Up to you.
How many times? You can only use it twice per day, right?
I don't think we should use it.
Yeah. You can use it a number of times equal to your charisma modifier, whatever that
Pretty
is.
sure the divine sense would tell you this place is
2, so you can only use it twice a day. Yeah, I realized that on the 3rd time that we did last time. Yeah.
I mean,
It was a freebie. You're a level 1, it's fine.
So
we're gonna have to go
I'll
through
turn
some dark
to
ones, so-
Brandon, so where do you want us to park your guys?
And you just... I believe we should go inside, speak to Donavich, priest, and make sure that he is able to perform last rites.
It'd also be interesting to see what he thinks of the village of Valakia.
Yes.
To hear it directly.
Oh boy.
Yes.
Do you feed your dead to sharks as well?
If you can find a shark, we may feed you to it.
What?
What?
Alright, let's go talk to our new friend, the priest.
She's gonna feed me to a shark.
She's not going to feed you to a shark.
She might have a shark.
She's not going to. She's
Just kind of continue
We
up.
carry the
Knock
casket
on the.
inside.
So you continue up, and the doors are kind of slightly ajar. The claw marks, scorch marks, seems to be fairly common across most of the areas.
May I do a perimeter again before I go inside? Before
Certainly.
I follow them?
Yep, do a
I'm
perception
not,
check.
I'm not carrying.
Make a perception check.
19! Oh, no.
Plus perception.
21.
21. Okay. That's a really good roll.
Thank you.
It's just
better than
unfortunate
my-
that there's nothing of any real note or
It's good
interest.
to know, though.
But it's definitively good to know
Good
that
to
nothing
know
is
that
of
there
interest.
is nothing exciting outside.
Outside, there's nothing. Kind of leaning up against the walls and kind of looking at the scorch marks and everything, you do hear like a very muffled sound of some kind. You can't quite place what it is, but there's some kind of like talking almost on the other side of the wall inside the church. you're not.
I'm inside.
You're outside.
I'm outside.
You're
Okay.
outside, and you just kind of like pressed up against the walls, and you're kind of like touching some of the claw marks, and you kind of hear just very slight murmurings
Okay.
on the other side of the church.
Can I try to like make out what I'm hearing?
You do it for a couple of seconds, and it's kind of difficult, and then it just kind of fades, like there's nothing there anymore.
Is it like creepy?
Not particularly. It just
Does it give me the heebie-jeebies?
It just kind of sounds like somebody was talking, maybe to themselves. There wasn't really a response there. You're not
Okay.
sure.
Can I search the area for any fresh tracks or just
You're carrying a casket.
You're carrying a casket.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Alright, let's just open it up and
Alrighty.
walk on in.
So, pressing against the doors, the creaking wood opens to reveal a 10-foot wide, 20-foot long hallway leading to a brightly lit chapel. The hall is unlit, reeks of mildew. 4 doors, 2 on each side, lead to adjacent chambers. Looking around, you can see the chapel is strewn with debris, and a soft voice is heard reciting a prayer directly ahead, kneeling in front of a stone prayer mantle. When you kind of step inside and your feet creak against the floorboards, you eventually hear a sound. I needed to have this queued up, and the stupid app is not doing it. Yeah.
You guys want to see what it is?
Well,
That's scary.
What the hell was that?
That sound rises up from beneath the floorboards.
Hmm.
And the man kneeling at the stone altar in front of you doesn't seem to respond in any way.
Ismark, what's going on?
I don't know. Donavich! And he just kind of calls ahead, and the man kneeling does kind of react a little bit, and then just turns around and kind of... It's been a long time since I've seen you. Kind of tough to come here, I imagine. What... God, is that your father?
Donavich, good to meet you. My name is Dr. D'Amato Shenanigans, MD. I'd like to ask you about that thing we just heard.
It was a shriek.
Ismark, why are these ones talking to me?
Ismark, old friend?
Ismark
Tell
just
me
kind
that.
of... They're helping to take Irina out of the village. We had to come here to bury my father before we felt that it was right to leave. Donavich, what's happened? And you just see the priest is just kind of getting a better look at him now as he's kind of walked over. He is definitively a priest. He's human, somewhat gaunt, but not as badly, just essentially kind of looking very malnourished, very tired. And he just kind of looks dejected, like shuffling his feet a little bit, like he just hasn't slept properly in several days. And he just kind of glances over. I just need everybody to make a perception check for me, please.
Sorry,
Oh, 21.
21.
Oh, 25.
Oh!
Natural 20 plus
Natural
5.
20 plus 5.
Nice.
Fail.
You still get your modifier.
I was gonna say, so what's happening in the next campaign?
3.
I had a 7.
7.
Yeah, I got a 9.
14. 25. 9. So you two, 15 DC. Notice that his eyes kind of dart off. The rest of you notice that he kind of looks away for a second, and it looks like he's just ashamed or upset about something. You two actually realize that he looks at one of the doors. So as you step inside, there's 2 doors immediately on your right and 2 doors directly in front, and then it opens up into the large chapel in front of that. The door immediately on your right, he kind of quickly glances at and then kind of looks back down to the ground and then looks at Ismark again.
There's something there.
Just behind the door.
To the right. Holy fuck.
Oh my god.
Dicecream Sandwich indeed.
It's very apt.
It is. There's nothing behind the door. You don't need to go in there.
I suggest we
It is my
When people
place.
say that means that
Don't worry,
we have to
guys.
go check
I've
out
got
the
this.
door.
Donovich, old friend. What's behind that door?
I'm not your friend. There's nothing behind the door. Go ahead and check for yourself.
No, Shenanigans. I think we should all go outside. Donavich, can you please help us bury the burgomaster?
No, shenanigans is not a word I like to hear. Yes, shenanigans I prefer.
Yes, if we'll be burying the burgomaster, I'll ring the bell. Hold. And he turns around and walks over to the other side. And you notice actually stepping a little further in that there is a large rope that's descending from the ceiling just beyond the stone altar that he was kneeling in front of, apparently praying. And he just kind of grabs the top of it and does a full, heavy, hard tug. And then a few seconds later, you hear the boom, boom of the church bell ringing up in the steeple. And kind of content with that, he turns around and then comes outside. And as he goes to take his first step outside, you hear that same scream echoing from underneath the church.
Told you guys.
And this time he does kind of react and kind of just look at the ground and like stamp his foot on the ground.
Donavich.
And then eventually steps outside, following you.
Does anything happen to him when he steps into the light? No. Okay.
Nothing of any note, really. He kind of squints a little bit, like he maybe hasn't been outside in that long, but his body appears fine. His skin doesn't react in any way.
I'm gonna run over to him and just like grab him by the scruff and intimidate him.
How?
I'm trying to explain it. My mouth was full of ice cream sandwich.
Very intimidating.
I intimidate him.
With dessert.
With dessert.
So
I will not give you any of my ice cream.
He's walking away at this point?
No, he stepped outside. He's following you outside as you're all still carrying that. So you are dropping.
Still carrying it, right?
Yeah, so you're still carrying it. So you can run up and grab him if you'd like. It's just that.
No, I'll still
Okay.
go. I keep forgetting that I'm still carrying the thing.
Yep, the four of you are still carrying.
So like running up.
No.
So it's us carrying it. It's me, Leaf.
So,
And those two.
yeah, you and Leaf, and then Hope and Leaf on the back end.
I'm gonna whisper to Leaf. I go, Leaf, old friend.
Yeah.
Now you got it.
Those screams are not making me feel very good.
Oh my God.
Dr. Shipman just
If I'm gonna make a move, will you have my back?
Yeah. Sure thing.
We can hear everything you guys are saying, but I agree. Let's get to that door.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not very quiet.
I'm with Fishman.
Alrighty.
Something.
So, making your way outside, the priest does start to eventually lead the procession around to the backside of the church. And there is a fairly large cemetery. And he makes his way through a series of the gravestones that are all fairly closely cobbled together. But there is one kind of larger standing structure. It's a very small mausoleum. And you do notice that the name on the outside is Kolnik. I just need to double check the spelling on it for you to get this one down.
I guess we should write this one down, guys.
You
Alright.
did
Sorry, it's Koliana. Kolyana.
And that's on the tombstone?
KOL?
Kolyana.
Oh, that was the name of the
Yeah.
burger man. Yeah.
What's this on? A
So it seems to be the family mausoleum.
So it's on the mausoleum.
So it's just a small one, seemingly where bodies are all buried together, kind of a family gravesite rather than individual graves.
Does someone maybe want to check out the mausoleum before we
Sure,
enter?
I'll
Or
go.
open the door at least.
I will go kind of investigate the mausoleum, see if I can see anything that looks amiss or.
Sure. Go ahead and make an investigation check. So the mausoleum is fairly small. It's essentially, we'll say about the size of your kitchen, give or take.
Cool.
Right, and it's essentially just a large stone tablet that can be removed, and then bodies can be placed underground in a built antechamber.
17.
17. So looking around, you notice that there are, on all of the gravestones, no real claw marks, no burn marks of any kind. Like, these have just kind of been left alone. You do notice that there are some disturbed patches of dirt, as if something has been either brought up from the ground or put in. You're not entirely sure which.
Inside our.
Not inside the mausoleum, just in general in the cemetery. Like,
Okay.
there are gravestones with names, and the earth seems to be disturbed in certain ones along
Okay.
the road.
Okay.
In this one specifically, there doesn't appear to be anything. The stone tablet with the name markings on it, there are 4 or 5 names carved in. One of them has started to fade a little bit, 4 you can see distinctly. And they're all just seemingly names of previous Kolyana family members.
I'd like to hang back and quickly just poke Ismark and be all like, this guy acting strange to you?
No more strange than usual. He, well, most of the people in this town really are not what we would consider normal. At least those of us who have ever seen what normal was.
That's screaming. Is that a thing? Is that a thing around here?
There has been word spread that Donavich has been cursed in some way. We don't know how or why, but none of us... Well, there was a period where eventually, some time ago, things changed. People stopped going to the church. They stopped listening to sermons. Things fell into disarray, and Donavich retreated into himself. And now the church is rarely used outside of these funeral processions. You would need to speak to him if you wanted to get more information. I've, as I said, never been much of a churchman myself, or my sister, at least, not in the last several years.
Well, I'm not much for this.
That your father being buried here.
Are you hanging back?
No.
Oh, that's what I was like. I don't ask him questions.
Calling them out.
I'm sorry.
Calling them out.
All right. Here's what I suggest. This is as Jesse, not as the doctor. I suggest we let this funeral thing happen, and then we wring this little guy's neck till he tells us what's going on around here.
I mean, at the very least, we need to get into that door. There's nothing spooky in this church. I mean, we don't want to waste time, but I think that we should figure out what's going on there.
Yeah.
Also, treasure.
It's our baby's first dungeon crawl.
Can we discern kind of what time of day it is right now?
So right now it's very early morning
Very
still.
early.
Yeah, you given the pace that Ismark and Irina wanted to make, they very rapidly got things together, kind of seemingly while you were sleeping and on watch last night. They prepared their father, got all of the herbs that they wanted to have on his body, got a few holy symbols on his chest, all the same familiar sun for Palor, and then got him dressed and brought him over to the church, so that this sermon, while it was there, would definitely be a quicker one. So, leading the body out, you eventually clear the mausoleum, open the small iron gates, and then allow the body to be carried inside and placed down, kind of sitting on top of the stone plinth that outlines the names. At this point, Donavich pulls out a small chisel and hammer and begins to just chisel in the burgomaster's name to join his fallen family members. Few minutes go by of just as he's tapping everything out, and you can see Irina and Ismark are very visibly distraught, even though their father has been dead in the same house as them for the last several days. Kind of having this final goodbye is definitely weighing on them more than a little bit.
I guess can I go up and put like a hand on, well, probably both their shoulders.
Ismark kind of looks over at you and then looks over at his sister, and she just kind of like puts a hand on yours and doesn't even look up from the body, and just is kind of sitting there.
I'd like to say a prayer.
Oh God.
And from my people to yours, if that is all right with you.
And Irina just kind of like is very clearly fighting back tears and just kind of nods and doesn't even look at you. Just kind of nods, still just looking at the body.
I stand up straight. I go.
What language are you speaking? What language are you speaking?
All right, Aquaman.
Trying.
Is that a language?
It is now.
No, but
I'd like to put my hand on his shoulder and say, that was beautiful.
Wrong book. It's in Volos. We need Volos.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, what language do? Oh, wait, no, like we don't have to. You don't have to pull. Okay.
No, yeah, it's faster. Alright. Yeah. Cheers. Alright.
I would laugh so hard if he was verbal nonsense.
I'm pretty sure it's actually.
He literally just goes like. Blah, blah, blah.
I actually think that he just speaks common. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I actually think you're right. I feel like.
Sounds like a bit.
It's a good bit.
We don't know why he's saying it yet.
There's some deep lore. Can't wait to explore her rich backstories later.
When we're
That'd be a great pickup line in a bar, like, "Hey baby, can I buy you a drink and explore your rich backstory?"
So, you do actually speak another language. You speak Primordial. Does anyone here speak Primordial?
Nope.
So I guess it sounds like that.
So it does sound kind of like that. Primordial being one of the ancient earthen or oceanic languages. There are slight dialect differences. So sometimes it's the sound of stone cracking on stone, sometimes it's the sound of branches rustling, and sometimes it's the sound of water gurgling.
There we go. More like bubbles.
So she just kind of, Irina just looking down a little bit and kind of expecting the words to come out in common, has kind of closed her eyes, ready to listen, and then she just kind of...
Irina,
You're welcome.
here. I shall say a prayer to my God.
Thank you.
My God is... I
That
shall
was-
double check their name.
That was Amanda. That was not Olivia. Who was your god?
Tell me
A rogue just. Oh, who was your god?
Are you a god?
Go for it.
Thank you.
Oh yeah.
Thank you for
Did
bringing
you
us
get
into
one?
this.
No, I'm good though.
You're good. Okay.
Yeah, I'm still full. Yeah,
Are you
I'm,
sure?
I'm still full.
Okay.
Thanks.
I pray to a compassionate God, the God of rebirth, Bahamut. We pray that your father will come back, his spirit will be stronger, and he shall walk amongst us once again, but not as the living dead. Just to clarify.
And she just kind of instinctively listening to the prayer, like starting to hear the words a little bit, is kind of agreeing with them, and then hearing him walk again, just kind of like this, looks at you and then sees you kind of backtrack it a little bit, and then just kind of...
Apologies, I read it. I take a hand and
We are
squeeze it.
not
It's
doing great.
reassurance. I was
You-
still learning at the temple.
This may not be the time to discuss this, but so you're aware, souls that die in Barovia do not leave Barovia. We are removed from everything. Any kind of afterlife. You die, and your soul is reborn into another. Or perhaps waits, and eventually is born further down the road. It is why, as I'm guessing Ismark told you already, the number of souls in Barovia are dwindling, and it is why Strahd is bringing in adventurers and people from outside of our lands. So my father, having had a soul, in comparison to a lot of those who are born without, I pray that he stays dead, that he does not get corrupted by the devil.
So too do we.
I pray that your dad stays dead.
I pray this mausoleum holds him. Donavich?
And she kind of gestures, and he eventually lifts off the stone plinth, if anybody would like to help him. Yeah, make a strength check. Here comes my bad die.
20.
Hey, it's a 15. No modifiers, so 15. So the two of you kind of, him actually taking the brunt of it, which you're a little bit surprised at, given his frail frame. He's definitely got some muscle underneath his arms. Kind of wedges it out a little bit, and you're able to lift the stone tablet and then pull it aside, and it opens up a fairly large cavernous area. And looking down, you do see that there is decomposition of some kind. The bodies are down there, and they kind of lift the burgomaster's body out, and then slowly lower it down into the area, and then eventually the body just falls on top of the decomposing pieces underneath, and then levering the tablet back into place. Lock the mausoleum again, essentially, and Irina and Ismark both just kind of... and they just have a very long, strong embrace.
Okay. While they're doing that, I'm gonna just kind of reach into my little pouch. I don't know if it's gonna be super obvious, but pull out a little seed. And I don't know if there's like a bit of like soil or something nearby, but we'll just kind of go and sort of dig a little, just like a little hole, with a little seed in, cover it, say a little prayer quietly to himself, and then return with the rest of the group.
Yeah, so you'd step outside the front of the little mausoleum. There's a few iron gates and stone floor, and you just kind of scoop out a little bit of the dirt and put a seed in there, and then recover it, and then pull out a little bit of your water skin and kind of water the seed. And Irina is very distraught, and her head is kind of buried in her brother's chest, but Ismark kind of looks over at you and just kind of gives you a bit of a nod, like a, you know, the tough grimace nod.
I don't know if the dead soil will be good for your plant there, sir.
Might not grow today, but one day something will. Hopefully it'll be nicer than what's happening here.
Maybe we should talk to Dagobah here about the things going on underneath his church.
There's a lot of screaming.
Yeah,
going
this
on.
whole time Ellie's been keeping a sharp eye on this priest. She hasn't trusted him one bit. He seems
Sure.
sketchy.
Go ahead and just make an insight check for me.
I also deeply distrust him.
Okay.
Yeah, I also do
13.
an insight check.
This is a specific thing from her case. Yeah. There will be times, but this time specifically just Elise. Was it, sorry?
13.
13. He definitely looks uneasy. There is something that's bothering him. He doesn't appear to be content now that he's outside of the church. It just is very much on edge, kind of like looking over his shoulders a
He
little
seems
bit.
like tied to the contents of the church, like eager to get back.
More so like worried that he's not in the church.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting distinction in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not gonna like necessarily attract his attention, but I'll tell you guys when the time is right.
Okay. So, finishing up last rites, he switches over, and those of you who speak any Elven, majority of the party, I'm guessing, you just noticed the last rites, kind of an Elvish statement of death, and that the living stay living, and that the dead stay dead, and that the sun shall shine a little bit brighter in the following days, and a little brighter in the following, and that life will eventually return to normal. And then Ismark and Irina end their very long hug and step outside of the little mausoleum, and everybody begins to make their way back into the church.
While we're walking, I'd like to talk to Dagmar?
Donavich.
Donavich. And say, Donavich, that was a lovely, lovely sermon you gave just now.
It wasn't anything out of the normal, really. Just something for, well, something I hope will help them get a little bit of peace now that their father is gone.
You're a good man, Donavich.
I
You're
am a man.
very, very good man.
I am a man. That is about all I can say for myself.
Donavich, you're a good man. I'd like to take a moment and just express my gratitude at how good you are, and how just you are, and what a wonderful bastion of the community you are.
I'm gonna turn to Hobu, who's really laying in a great thick of stuff.
I'm not sure. I think I get what's
What
going on.
What are you doing with these guys? Why are you with them?
Donavich, I'm a doctor.
All
I
right.
go where I need to go. I go to help people who need help. Good people sometimes who need help.
I thought you were stranded
Now,
here like us.
quiet, old friend. This isn't the time.
Stranded here. Oh,
And you notice that his mood kind of lightens a little bit hearing that, and he just kind of...
Strahd brought you here. About the third, fourth group of adventurers I've seen come through this way in the last 6 months.
Well, Donavich, as good a man you are, what happened to these others?
Dead. A lot of them. Nothing to say beyond that. One or two of them buried in the cemetery back there. Their bodies found on the outskirts of the forest. And a few found in the fog. Have you been in the village long?
I just stare at him in a very non-kindly way.
You'll excuse my friend, Donavich. He has a very short temper. Donavich, we've been here long enough.
Confused temper.
Long enough?
Long enough.
Alright.
How long have you been here, Donavich?
Was born here. I'll die
Born and
here.
raised.
I'll probably be reborn here too.
Reborn, you say?
That's how it all happens for us. It's the reason why all these prayers are for us to stay dead. Anytime one of us dies, there's usually another life born somewhere else in Barovia.
Donavich, we were at the tavern last night, and we may have heard a thing or two about curses in the village. You happen to know anything about any curses that might be on people in the village?
And he just kind of looks away. Go ahead and make an insight check.
Ooh. 13 plus 2, 19.
19.
We gotta whisper.
Yes!
Son of a bitch!
While that's happening, I would also just kind of like to, like, casually come up beside Leaf and just say, "That was really thoughtful."
Oh, thanks. I just got that one from my granny. Do that. I really hadn't buried someone before, but it was a first for me. Glad you liked it.
Yeah, that was really. Is that part of your culture?
Well, yeah, no, we've, me and my granny, she's always told me to try to, plant new life.
We don't care what you said, it's no big deal, it's fine.
No, there's no curses, no nothing. A few that obviously disappearances, bodies turning up, but I don't know of anything.
Your family run this church?
Yeah, I've been the caretaker of it for the better part of my adult life.
What about your father?
Father, long dead.
He a man of the faith as well?
He was, in his lifetime.
Keyword choice.
Name again.
Donavich.
Donavich. I keep wanting to say Dagobah.
Maybe it is spooky and there's space.
Can I take a moment to share whispers with
Also,
Bardic?
can I add that I would have liked to have been
You can, if you'd like to.
behind them, just kind of
Okay, so
listening
real
in.
quick, what was whispered to me?
So you would allow Donavich to go on ahead, correct?
Yeah,
We're gonna have to kind of.
Yeah, so he and Ismark and Arena move on ahead, and you kind of
but
gesture back to the party.
I'm also gonna gently prod Fishman here and say, "Hey, Chewie, go keep an eye on this guy."
Oh, you don't have to worry about
So I'll try.
Does stops moving, watching it. I just shove you.
Yeah.
Well, Les is keeping an eye on Dagovich.
Donavich.
Donovan. keeping a watch on you. I'm not like over here. I'm like this.
Yeah, no. You're right. Yeah, that's fine.
That's
This-
appropriate.
That'll play to my bit later.
Okay.
What he was saying was that.
I don't hear any of this.
No, you don't.
No. Donovich
So go in the other room.
Okay.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, there's gonna be some stuff that, yeah, we're gonna have whole conversations. All right.
So Donavich, as I was asking him about curses, was clutching his holy symbol and his family crest symbol while looking back at the church. Reading the old doctor believed that might be his family in the church.
Or something connected to his family.
All right, Chewie, get back in here.
Bubbles, not Chewy voices.
And now I'm just thinking Admiral Akbar.
Blow into it every time.
It's a trap! It's a trap!
So I'd recommend we all catch up with Dagovich.
Donavich.
I'm getting there.
Getting closer. You got the bitch.
I feel it's kind of part of your character.
At this point, I initially thought it was like you're just
Misnames.
character. I was misnaming, and then I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, he's just not
Dr.
writing anything down.
Practically Dr. Steve Brule at this point. Royal Bringus.
Alrighty.
So, so I'd like to carry on. Donavich, my old friend. We've known each other for a little while now. I'm a doctor. I'm here to help.
I understand that.
I'm not going to parse words with you. I heard word of curses, and I heard the name Dagovich involved. Donavich involved.
And he just kind of visibly gets a little bit distraught at this point, and then just, I don't know what you're talking about.
Donavich?
And I just kind of run behind you.
There is nothing.
Donavich,
Curse.
you'll excuse my
You
short
should
temper.
leave, all of you. Get
Donavich.
out of this village.
Why don't you tell us what's screaming underneath your church?
There's nothing underneath my church.
Block the door, Chewie.
Are we in now?
We're inside the church.
It's going on.
Oh, I can't have grapefruit.
Can I trade you?
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
have
Yeah.
peach pear. There you
Thank
go.
you.
Do you have a citrus cookie?
My medication's not good with.
So, he
I'd
just
like to.
Trying to steal one sip.
I'd like to try and persuade him.
Do you want to share
Okay,
it?
go ahead and... How would you like to do so?
Me?
Donna-
What's going on?
No.
No.
Dr. D'Amato is trying to persuade...
Oh,
The
We
priest.
just because you were licking things.
Yes, you were just like... freak.
Donavich, you are right. We were brought here by Count Strahd von Zarevich.
Gets this
That
guy's
being
name.
said, we escaped Count Strahd von Zarevich. We fought our way through a forest here, and we offered to help Ismark and his sister.
And he kind of looks over at Ismark and Irina, and they kind of look back at him and nod slightly.
Let us help you.
There is nothing you can do to help me. I've tried everything. There's nothing.
What's the situation, Donavich?
And he kind of looks over at the door and then just kind of bows his head slightly and then looks back at Irina and at Ismark and then just...
I didn't know what else I could do.
And then he opens the door and there's just a room. There's nothing in the room really. But he goes over to the far corner of it and... excuse me. Oh my goodness. Time and neglect have punched holes in the ceiling of this moldy room, which contains a few broken roof shingles, puddles of water. In one corner, set in the floor, is a heavy wooden trap door, held shut with a chain and a padlock. And again, you hear that same... but this time much louder from the other side of that padlocked trapdoor.
Who's screaming, Donavich?
It's my son.
What happened to your son, Donavich?
And he just kind of just freezes and just can't form words. Like his mouth is just kind of stammering things out.
I'd like to put my hand on his shoulder and say, Donavich, old friend.
And he just kind of like instinctively just moves away from you over to the far side of the room and is looking at everybody and just kind of...
It was all I could do.
What did you do, Donavich?
Can I go over and like look at the trapdoor? Is there like slats or?
It's a sealed, solid shut trapdoor. There's a chain running across it and a large padlock in the middle. So imagine an X chain padlock in the middle.
Okay. Can I kind of like just like fiddle with the chain while like like?
Donavich, eyes.
Sure. So kind of pulling on the chain a little bit. Are you actually trying to open it or?
Well, no. I'm trying to entice him to tell us more.
Oh, so you're just like jangling the chain.
I'm like subtly threatening to open it.
And he just kind of looks over at it and just kind of...
If you want to.
Donavich, be reasonable. My friends here aren't. Tell us what's going on.
You have to see it. I can't leave him. I can't fix him. I can't do anything.
Are you safe? Are you? I don't know what's happening. Are you safe?
He just...
Are we safe?
I don't know.
Was he turned?
That would be one way of putting it, yeah.
What are you telling us, Donavich?
Tell us what you can.
Was stuck here like the rest of you, and all we want to do is help.
And or kill things.
My son...
And sometimes it's helping.
Yes.
Go ahead and make a persuasion check.
8, but... plus 6. 8.
14.
14.
My son, Doru. He was tired of living under the shadow of the castle for his entire life. And he did something that many people tried in the past, and I warned him against it. I tried him to not go, but he gathered a formidable force. Good 50, 60 young men, armed with weapons, mostly scavenged from the dead, and stormed the castle, trying to end the reign of Strahd. He was gone for a week, 2, and then returned one night, and I was so thankful to see him again. and then he just started screaming, and I didn't know what to do. I tried keeping him safe and beside me, but every time anyone other than me came into the church, I would leave and come back and find their body. Just drained. And I eventually had to do unspeakable things to get him into that basement, and he's now been there for months, screaming every day, just begging me for food, and I can't do it anymore.
What does he eat, Donavich?
The fuck do you think he eats?
I want to hear you say it.
You. Anyone who came to this town looking for some point of refuge, I would get them to go down and try and help my son. And it would just be the one of them, and I knew that if one of them went down there, I would at least have a week, a few days of peace without the screaming. And now I can't bring myself to do anything else about it. I can't send anyone else down there, and I can't go down myself.
So those adventures in your church are... Let's see how they got there then. Well...
Is that you, Donavich?
No, it wasn't.
Then who was it?
I don't know. I really don't. You have to believe me.
Anyone who would like to make an insight check, you're able to.
Absolutely.
The entire table rolls insight.
15.
Oh, 1.
Add your modifiers.
2.
9, I got it.
8.
Doing great on this one.
15.
7.
24.
Whoa!
So I apologize. What was the question again?
I just insinuated that the people in his graveyard got there because of his son.
Because of his son. Yeah. He's telling the truth. The people in the graveyard did not get there because of his son. And you realize based on what he's been saying that the people who were put in the basement
They're probably still there.
probably still there.
Okay.
Okay.
So there's just a little vampire hat on me.
So you call yourself a holy man.
I never claimed to be a holy man. Not
You're
anymore.
a priest.
I'm the closest thing to any kind of a priest this city has anymore. I don't claim it. It's not what I am. I just help people try and move on when loved ones die.
Well then perhaps we should try to help you move on because your son has died a long time ago.
Is it just your son down there?
As far as I know, he's the only one who makes any sound.
I'm gonna
Any
grab
kind
him
of-
by the scruff of the
So as you reach for him, he just instinctively just pulls out a key and just kind of tosses it on the ground beside the padlock.
I can't do this anymore.
And he just walks out of the room, or tries to.
I'm gonna grab him by the scruff of the back of the shirt and be like, and then you can lead us the way. And then like grab him forward and grab the key and then like go to open the lock.
Oh,
It'd be like, can you tell us what the layout of the basement looks like?
It's a flat floor. There's a staircase that goes down. It's about 120 feet by 80 feet. It's a large basement, but it's just a floor. There's no doors.
Have you got any light?
Are there any torches in the church area?
I tried putting torches down there, and that just made the screaming worse. And eventually, they just burned out.
Okay.
Good to know.
Is he chained?
There are torches sitting in the wall sconces. They're currently unlit though because it is morning.
Okay.
Sorry, is he chained?
Is he chained?
No, he's my son. I couldn't.
He's not your son.
When he came back,
I'm afraid.
he was. At least I believed that he was. And then
That she isn't anymore.
And you just see at this point that he just openly starts weeping, and it's just like he doesn't know how to react, how to do anything anymore. Kind of coming to the realization that U6 may finally simultaneously end his suffering and then.
All right, team.
So then after all that, can I grab my scruff and lean towards the door?
Hold up.
It's a trapdoor on the floor. The key's in front of it. If you'd like.
Manners, Les.
This
Is
man
Irina and Ismark still with us?
They've been kind of listening, and their eyes are just wide, and Ismark especially is just furious.
Ismark, I think you and Irina should go back and finish the packing, and we'll help. We'll help take care of this. Or do you need someone to escort you back?
I believe that would be a good idea.
Okay.
If one of you could just escort us back, it would not be long. We would be able to run back, and you could run back here in 20 minutes.
I'll go with them, because if I stay around here, I'm going to kill this man.
And he just kind of.
Don't even care.
Backhand.
And he just kind of goes spinning off. Go make an attack roll, actually. So just so don't add your proficiency, just add your strength.
Him slap the life out of him.
That's 10. Plus strength?
Plus strength.
3, so 13.
13? Yeah. His AC is 10, so yeah, you hit him. Go ahead and roll. So what's your strength modifier? Sorry.
Plus 3.
Plus 3. Oh wait, sorry, it's just 1 point of damage. So you just kind of like backhand him, and he does actually like kind of turn back into your fist a little bit, as like before you're able to open your hand to just slap him, you actually just clock him with the back of your fist, and he kind of notices that a little bit of blood starts to come out of the corner of his mouth, and he just kind of looks at you and just like accepts that the blood is there and doesn't wipe it away or anything. It's just there.
All right.
Just walk away and help.
I wouldn't
him.
throw any more blood in front of this creature.
Well, Les is helping them. I'm going to collect the torches from the sconces.
Okay. So you're able to grab about, we'll say, 8 torch currently.
Okay.
Before the two go back, I just want to sort of pull him aside and say, I know you're mourning your father right now, and you want to probably keep everything of his, but if you have any sacred symbols that belong to him that you feel like loaning us for the duration of this trip, probably wouldn't be a bad idea if you could bring us some. The God of the Light. Can't say that that wouldn't be helpful against the creatures of the dark.
All right, we'll see what we can grab, and I suppose we'll meet you when you come back and get us to leave.
Yes. Should we reconvene at the inn?
We should fetch them from their house.
Please,
Yeah.
we would appreciate that. I remember that there was an old woman that you wanted to see at the inn.
Yes.
Right.
I don't
Not
know if we have
important
time anymore for Anthea.
We'll see.
I might go check on it on my way back.
So you guys made it to the church at give or take 9:30. So given the procession and then everything that's happened, it's probably taken just under an hour. So it's about 10:30 a.m. at this
Okay,
point.
not bad.
You need to leave by noon.
We're
So
gonna speed run this one.
Okay.
Okay.
So here's my plan. We don't have to do this, but this is just what the old doctor.
this is where I sit back.
Shenanigans.
We should do this outside of the room. See how you like it. Just kidding.
If you want me to leave,
No,
I'm more
it's
than happy to.
fine.
Sometimes you guys like to plan stuff in
There
secret.
might be occasions in the future. This is probably
Yeah, please.
what it is.
This is not a complex.
I finally rolled a 19 on my die. Oh my god.
Oh
Okay.
no.
I
Oh
think-
no.
I think we open up the trapdoor. We'll light a bunch of torches. Open up the trapdoor. Throw the torches down. It's heat sensitive. It's probably not going to come super close to heat.
Okay.
I can summon my Will of the Wisps. Like, I don't think they have actually the same kind of like power against it that fire does, but it might do something just being light.
Yeah.
It will help us see.
Yeah,
For
it'll help us-
those who can't
well,
see clearly
yeah, it'll
in the
help.
dark.
Hey,
Yeah, no, we will need that. Please.
Yeah.
do we know if he's undead or he's just really angry?
It sounds like he's been turned into spawn, the vampire spawn. So it seems to be like a
No, you go ahead.
it seems to be like a state where they're caught between a human and vampire, just half transformed. Could be wrong. Seems to be bestial rather than cunning like Strahd.
Okay.
So let's light him up.
I've got my tinder box. Let's eat. Can I take one of your torches?
Yeah, I'll pass you.
So we're losing less.
Yeah.
Okay.
Irina and Ismark.
Yes.
But just less for that we can.
Well, I mean,
He's
I
he's gonna take them and then come right back as well.
So it would take him about 20 minutes to go down and come back if you guys wanted to wait.
I mean,
I feel like we probably should,
Yeah,
but
we're just running out of time.
Yes.
yeah.
It'll be okay.
I also don't know if I trust Les, and I just kind of like glance at him
I'm not
to
there.
No, you are.
This
have
is
you
before
left
you've
already?
left.
Yeah.
Oh,
This is
okay.
before you left.
I don't know if I trust him to make it back in time. He said he was going to possibly go check on India.
Yeah, I don't super trust that he's not good. I think we need to do this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's.
I
Okay.
I
Okay.
think everyone should keep a torch on them, as well as
I would
throwing
like
their
to
immediate
have
hand.
2 in one hand. 2
Okay.
torches in one
I
hand.
can't hold a torch because I have my bow is two-handed.
Well, I'll have my
some-
long sword in one hand and
Yeah.
a torch in the other.
So you would lose your shield if you decide to do
I
that.
shall put my shield upon my back.
So losing your shield, that means that your armor class, your AC, drops by 2. So just be advised, whatever I asked you, like it'll be a 17 to hit, you'll be looking at what your AC is and subtract 2 from it. Okay?
I'd like to turn to Donavich and say, you might want to leave the room. This might get messy.
You should perhaps wait outside in the sunlight.
Before you leave,
I will pray for his soul until it's done.
Now, question: do we want to?
do you want this?
Yeah, he wants to be free from this.
Yeah.
He wants his son to be free too, I think.
He based on what you guys have seen, he's very torn. Like no matter how much he knows that isn't his son, he still sees it as his son. Right? It's the Walking Dead syndrome, where you've seen that your kid is turned and you can't bring yourself to put the bullet in the head.
Well, time for us.
Alright. Do we want to go down into the dungeon, or do we want to create a scenario where we open it and then have him come out?
What's his face is bleeding, right? Let's just like swipe some of his blood onto the floor.
Yeah.
We already have some blood going.
Ring
Just
a
like,
little.
come here for a second.
Yeah.
Just swipe some of the blood.
Lunch
smack
is
on the floor,
served.
have all the torches out and just lure it out.
Yeah.
All those with ranged weapons can be like ready to fire.
Yeah.
As soon as it
Do we
comes
want
out.
to try that before we attempt to go down into a dungeon that we don't necessarily know where he is?
Yes, let's do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Okay.
Just whatever you decide to do. If one of you falls, grab them and leave. You don't want one of your party becoming whatever the hell he is.
How do they
Any
become?
windows in this room?
How do they become one of what he is?
I don't know, but I don't want you to have to be the ones who find out.
Okay.
I would assume standards, not rules.
Are there any windows in this room?
In this room or in the under?
No, in
we
this
are.
room.
Where you are? Yeah, there's 2 windows on either side. Essentially just like stone empty slats.
So there is sunlight coming in.
There is sunlight coming into this room,
okay.
correct?
Okay, that's good to know.
So I have my head up.
Okay.
Sunglasses on.
Yeah.
So how do we want to do this?
Do we want to each kind of all be around?
Like a different corner of the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one person removing.
So I think let's both be behind the trapdoor because we're ranged.
Yeah.
So the one thing that I'm just gonna, because you guys remember, if everything is to be believed, this creature is the same strength as the thing that backhanded someone across the room. Right? Like, I understand you guys are gung-ho and like this is definitely what you want to be doing, but just DM reminder, this is something that picked someone up by the throat and threw them 30 feet across a room. It's up to you guys to decide if... Yeah, it's up to you guys to decide if this is something you want to continue with, or if this is something that you want to wait and maybe deal with at some point in the future.
After this.
You do.
Maybe we can just sort of get Donavich to sort of like leave, like not feed it until we get back.
Well, he's not feeding it anymore.
No, but I mean, any more time spent where it's going to just become like weaker, although probably a little bit more wild too. I mean,
So, and make an intelligence roll. I'm just helping out with this one because it is a situation where I think you guys quite understand.
2.
Oh.
I think it's a great idea, you guys.
Advantage because it's your favorite
Yeah.
enemy.
So let's roll again.
What's my advantage? Oh yeah.
Roll again and
Yeah.
take the higher of the 2.
1.
Wow.
You guys, let's do this. It's a great idea. We
Okay.
should totally kill this thing.
So,
That's second.
okay, I'm gonna call this general knowledge because
You don't want us all to die.
it's general knowledge. These creatures are weak in sunlight. It is daytime. He has not fed in a very long time.
So he's pretty sick.
Flush it up, lock
Yeah.
the door so it can't go in the dark.
Well, if we, because it's
That's
not
what I
gonna
said.
be
Like
able
if
to
we
open the door
smear
again.
blood on
Yeah.
outside far
Maybe
enough,
not
it'll store
necessarily.
it up.
Yeah, maybe not necessarily us be in this room, but say we smear blood kind of all the way up, out into like the front doors, barricade all of the side doors alone, so he has to come out into the full sunlight.
I mean, I think I don't know if it would make any difference for us to be out in the secondary room than it would for us to be in
Yes,
this room.
there's still
No,
light.
we're outside.
Oh.
Oh.
I mean, who knows if we'll even get it out there, though. I
Yeah,
think
that
maybe-
seems like it's probably better to keep it in a controlled space.
Okay.
Because
There
it's
is
flailing.
light coming in through the
There is
windows.
sunlight coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we
Okay.
have sunlight on our side.
Plus fire.
Plus
We
fire.
also have fire. I think if we just get it into this room and all sort of like attack it, do an attack of surprise with ranged weapons as quickly as we can.
I don't think we'd have surprise.
Fair. Yeah, it knows we're here because it's
Yeah.
screaming. You're right. Because it only screams when somebody other than Donavich is in the church. Well, we still get advantage on it if it comes into the room that we're in. We could be waiting with weapons, so.
What am I doing at this point?
Yeah, it's probably been.
Yeah.
At this
It's
point,
20 minutes.
having you guys discussed everything, you would be down there and kind of on your way back. I'll just go ahead and get you to make an athletics check. We'll just see how quickly you run when you're by yourself.
That's a 6
Just like tripping.
plus 5.
Plus 5, 11. Okay, so you would move at standard pace getting back, so it would take you about 12 minutes or so to go down there with them, because Irina in her armor and Ismark not the quickest guy in the world, and kind of booking it back as quickly as you could. You would get to the church right around this time.
Alright, are we gonna go kill things or what? I'm getting very fucking bored here.
I don't know.
I bet we take care of this. Who knows what'll happen while we're gone.
I reluctantly agree.
Take it on now? Okay.
There
I
we
kind
go.
of just want to battle it, but I think someone's gonna die. Okay.
Did they give you any holy symbols to bring back with you?
They did give you 2 holy symbols, symbols of Palor, so large sun crests. One that's on a essentially small set of golden prayer beads, and then the fairly small sun crest there. And then the other one is along a necklace, and it's a much more substantial one.
Is that what this is? I thought it was just fancy jewelry.
Can I scan around the church to see if there's any other symbols within the church that we could also use? Or silver, or whatever else you've said will be useful?
So they're holy symbols, really.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go through a couple of descriptors here. Righty. Dirty light room contains a wooden bed with a straw-filled mattress. Mounted above the bed's headboard is a large wooden holy symbol in the shape of a sun, about the size of your torso. Another room, a dirty room containing a wooden bed with a straw-filled mattress, next to which rests a small table with an oil lamp burning brightly. Mounted above the bed's headboard is a wooden sun-shaped holy symbol, again about the size of your chest. An old desk and a chair stand against the south wall in a third room with a wooden holy symbol of a sunburst mounted above them. 10-foot-long iron rod attached to the north wall stands bare, suggesting a tapestry once hung there, and against the far wall stands a wooden cabinet with 4 tall doors.
I want to open that cabinet.
Yeah.
Okay. Inside the cabinet, you find a tinderbox, a few wooden boxes full of candles and incense, and 2 well-used books. The books are named Hymns to the Dawn, a volume of chants to Palor the Morning Lord, so essentially your, what's it called? Hymnal book that you would see in church. And the other one, The Blade of Truth, the uses of logic in the war against diabolist heresies as fought by the Almost Inquisition.
Oh, I want that one.
Alrighty. A strange book that mixes logic exercises with lurid descriptions of fiend-worshipping cults.
Ah! That's for me.
So you have a book called The Blade of Truth, if you'd like to note that down somewhere.
I would have definitely grabbed the oil lamp and pulled it into the room that we're going to.
Yeah, I'm taking the tinderbox.
Can I take one of their large symbols? Can I lift it?
Sure. It's about the size of your chest, so you're holding it pretty wide.
Yeah.
Because I'm wondering if someone who's got a ranged weapon
Oh,
should
yeah,
have
behind it?
hide behind it.
I think we should grab all 3 and pull them into that room.
There's additional protection.
So I think
Hopefully.
I'm gonna get behind one.
Yeah, they might not work, but
Yeah.
who knows?
This Paul has just sat down cross-legged, bored as fuck, and just like flicking his trident.
You have the key in front of you on the floor as well.
Oh boy.
It's just everyone's collecting it.
Oh.
He's sitting in the room. He sees the key there.
You can be in charge. You can be in charge of smearing the blood on the floor. Seems like a task that you'd be
You
up
like
to.
that, don't you, friend? Blood?
Yeah, touch me, old friend.
Ah, old friend. We're
Yeah, we
friends
need,
now.
we'll need someone, because it's just a little bit of blood, so we'll need someone to, surface level cut themselves, maybe, to...
I mean, there
I
is
mean,
an
no,
old
he got
lady at
punched
the
in his
tavern.
face. Like, it was substantial, I think. He meant it back kind of, and then he actually,
Cut his mouth.
Okay.
I don't think
So-
we should harm ourselves in any way. I think that would make them the target.
I mean, again, there is an old lady at the tavern.
I mean, this thing is hungry. It's been in the dark for weeks. A small smear of blood, I'm sure it'll be sensitive enough to come up.
Okay.
I'm sure it's...
All right.
Okay. Who wants to be the one to unlock it?
Unlock it.
To unlock
Yeah.
it.
Well, it's a trapdoor, so it'll be like...
Open it from behind.
And who's the the heaviest hitter?
Everyone's just doing like, well, what can you guys curl?
I think it's gonna be either Hope or less.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not me. Like I'm just gonna
Yeah.
blast the shit out of this thing.
Yeah, I also am not.
I'm decent, but you guys are tougher than
I
I am.
have
But my strength is pretty
1d8 attack roll. For
I
damage.
have 1d10.
Oh.
So that's if you're using two-handed, so you lose your shield.
Or your torch.
I thought it did have the shield.
No, with the shield it's 1d6 because you're holding it one-handed. If you hold it two-handed, that's when you get the
For the feet
versatile.
that I have, I have the shield and the weapon. I get plus 2 damage.
Yeah.
No, so you're still dealing 1d6, but it's 1d6 plus 2 damage.
Right.
So rather than dealing 1d8 with no bonuses, you're getting 1d6, the one-handed weapon, with plus 2 damage because you're used to fighting weapon and shield.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
So it's not 1d8, it's 1d6 plus 2.
Right, that's right.
I
Yeah.
could do
It's better than 1d8.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're
I got
rolling
1
3 to
d8
8
plus
instead of
2.
1 to 6.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
ready to fight things now.
Okay.
Okay, we've got
I
everything.
will unlock it, but I think that the two kind of closer to the direction that the opens should be Less and Hope.
Finally.
Yes, I've got... Would you like a torch, Les?
Yeah, torches all around.
And you got
What?
That?
Hi. What?
What?
Okay.
I saw something.
What did you say about there was a table, like an old wood table?
An old wood table?
Healing spell.
There's an old desk and chair standing against the south wall in an office, and a wooden holy symbol of a sunburst mounted above them.
Guys,
Okay, and there was
we
maybe
can
like
throw
a bed
wooden
of-
stuff down there and set it all on fire.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fire.
So-
there was maybe like a bed with like tinder, or like
Oh.
there was like a bed with.
So there's
Oh,
two
we
beds.
suggesting that we just set the chair.
So there's two
Ooh, that
beds,
sounds good.
both with straw-filled mattresses on wooden
Put
bed
that
frames.
downstairs anyway.
Downstairs, yeah.
Okay.
So those would go up in a flash, basically, because it's straw-filled. So
Right. Okay.
Let's drag all that in here.
You have to
throw
put
all
it
down
on the
there,
edge of my
and set some
trident.
Okay, hold on.
Just like-
Hold
So-
on, baby.
remember Donavich also said that the church basement is 120 feet
Yeah.
by 80 feet.
Oh, that's
So it's a massive. It's essentially the size of the church, just underground, and it's one floor.
So we can run through the fire.
What if we have the straw mattress set on fire when we open it?
I mean,
So
we're
that
trying to
there's
convince.
immediate fire.
Part of this is that we're trying to
Convince it to
lure
come
this
up,
thing
yeah.
out, even though the sunlight is probably repelling it. So I think we probably shouldn't put fire in its way as well.
That's
No.
true.
So should
Like,
we
the goal is
perhaps-
to deal with it, it's kill it.
Okay.
Should we perhaps blood then, and then have built a little trap where we can just set fire to
What if we put the
mattresses?
blood on the mattress and then set the mattress on fire
I
once
like
it goes to the
that.
mattress?
So one thing, can you get you to roll another intelligence check at advantage?
That dice needs to go in dice jail. That was caught.
9.
Oh.
It was coming inside, but it was at a 9 on top. 4 and 9.
4 and 9. Okay. Yeah.
No, is that your? What's your what's your
My
intelligence?
intelligence is 0.
Oh, okay.
What was our other objective besides all of a sudden became so entranced in fighting this
we were
one thing?
gonna-
So the other thing
Leaving
was that
town.
is leaving town. They've gone down. You escorted them back so that they could start packing their things, and you were supposed to clear the way between their house
I'm gonna
and the
address, I'm
exit
gonna
of the
address the
village.
party for one quick second and be like, this seems to be distracting us from our main goal of protecting these people, and we're only gonna get them killed if we release a bunch of fucking vampires.
I mean, like, we could always. This
There'll be
thing's
more,
not going anywhere.
there'll
We
be
might as well
more
come back
things to
it
kill
later.
later on. I think we should
Sure.
get these people
We're hitting
out
all the
first
side
and remember
quests.
what we're here to do.
Yeah.
They're like, ooh, shiny.
Shut up, Eris. I'm going to side quests. Okay. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I guess we should probably.
Leave this and promise
Donavich.
As he
Donavich.
got like the lighter to the bedroom. What?
So at this point, he's just kneeling in front of the stone altar,
Back
just
to praying again.
back to praying. Just and again, but it's odd. Like you notice that the screams were almost like following him as he walked around, and at this point now are directly underneath. You just hear, "Father, I'm starving," and just banging on the underside of the wooden floorboards directly underneath where he is. Because you never actually made your way
Where
further
he
into the
is.
church. Yeah.
We could just set fire to this whole place.
Can we back over a higher
There's
level and
enough
just
wood.
cast a nuke?
There's always another time.
I mean,
I think we should put it to a vote. Should we leave the church as is and continue on our main mission, or do we try and put rest to Donavich's son?
We should clear the way.
Alright, all those in favor of clearing the way for our patrons, hands up.
Yeah, they have the money.
Okay.
Alright, it's unanimous. Somebody want to talk to this man?
Hope you're holy. Maybe talk to this holy man.
Donavich, I think it's time that you leave this church. I think you should perhaps take refuge in the mansion that you temporarily leave.
While this is going on, I'm going to pick up the key and pocket it.
Ooh, smart.
Okay. Yep, you're able to do that. Would you like to try and hide it from any of the party? Because he's not there.
No, just Donavich.
Sure. Yeah, he's not there.
Okay.
So you're easily enough.
No,
able to do
and
that.
I don't care that they see
Yep.
that.
Alrighty. You have the key to
Key
the
to
lock.
a crazy vampire thing.
Donavich, do you agree that you should leave now?
I cannot leave. If I leave, the screams will get louder and
How
some.
do you know they'll get louder?
You won't be able to
Vampire
hear
screams in your basement. Is anyone there to hear?
You ever tried those, friend?
If somebody ever comes to the church and I'm not here and those screams are heard and they unlock that, I don't want to be responsible for that.
Well, can you assure us that you'll not let it feed, let your son feed?
I don't even have the key anymore. It's been weeks
Would
since I
you
had
let Strahd enter these church doors?
No.
Do we believe him?
Make an insight check if you'd like. Hope you may as well.
Yeah, no.
I believe him.
Which
He
one would
seems
this
like a
be?
good dude.
Insight.
Insight.
Yeah, that was 4
Oh,
plus.
4 plus 15, 19.
Oh, dang.
19.
Whoa!
Seems pretty honest.
Okay,
I trust him. I
Alright.
think we should head back to the mansion.
let's clear the path
Well, since we've now
for our wealthy friends.
got some extra time, since we decided not to enter this battle, we might as well do a quick peek in at the end. We want to
Anthea!
Right, one side quest. And on to the next.
Well,
Alrighty.
we might as well do some information.
What if
together.
she's drank a bunch and we owe a lot of money?
We did,
She's not
like,
close.
we told Anthea,
We
stop
specified-
that,
We told those 3 women that
Okay.
she's not with
and
us on
then
the way
we are
out,
not
didn't we?
responsible for her death.
Yeah.
Alright.
Okay.
So as you turn to leave, Donavich does turn to you especially, and just kind of
Wherever you decide to take Arena, I know that her brother's been trying to take her to the town of Alaki. It's a fortified village. It is a ways away. But given Strahd's apparent hatred of all churches. You might also want to consider taking her to the Abbey of Saint Merkovia.
So the Abbey of Saint Merkovia, Merkovia.
The army?
The Abbey. So, essentially,
A holy place, similar to this church. It's on... Well, it's quite a ways away. It may be even further than the Lucky. I'm not sure.
Do you know which rough direction?
Everything from here is west.
And just so you know,
I don't care.
If we can, we'll return to help you deal with what lies beneath your church.
We need to protect Irina particularly.
Irina is one of the last good things in this world. I would hate to hear that she had fallen victim to Strahd again after everything that happened the first time. And the second.
Do you mind if we take any of the smaller holy symbols with us on our travels?
My church has been ransacked more than I would care to admit. Anything you find, you're welcome to it.
I'm trying to remember if there are any smaller.
We were only looking
They're all
at
Like the
large.
giant
yeah,
ones.
they've mostly got the giant wooden holy symbols. There's candles, there's tinder boxes, matchboxes. There are a series of torches that you guys haven't used. So you've got an extra 8 torches as well that you pulled off of the walls. Unless you would like to leave those for him, it's kind of up to you.
Maybe we should leave one or two.
Yeah, we should leave him
Well,
a
let's
few
leave
of
him
those.
3 because we have. That way, everyone in our party has an extra one.
Yeah.
Sure.
And there wasn't any silver in the church?
No silver in the church. Very little metal of any kind. The only real metal appeared to be that one long iron rod that once held a tapestry. But that's obviously now been torn down and you can't find it anywhere.
Alright. Let's clear the way.
Yeah, let's continue on our travels and have a quick check from
Very well.
Alrighty. So, making your way south out of the church. Again, as you begin to step outside, you just continue hearing the screams underneath.
He's fine.
Just a growing boy.
You hear, stepping further away from Donavich, the screaming continues, and he appears to just be praying louder. Just the words echoing off the walls, and you can just kind of looking back, you can see that tears are just streaming down his face on the floor, knowing that.
Can we say a prayer?
If you'd like to.
Yeah,
Touch the
kind of do that.
We do.
No one sees it.
Holy bro fist.
It was like a glowing,
Alright.
Oh, said so.
So, stepping out of the church, you begin to make your way south. All of you definitely leaving a little heavy-hearted, having just put a father into the ground and then seeing a son turned, father distraught inside, clearly wishing one of the two of them would be dead. Not a great start to the morning. Making your way south, you do eventually get to the center of the town, and you make your way into the inn. And it's just the bartender behind the bar. There is no one else sitting at any of the tables. It's fairly early, and he is just same motion, just kind of staring ahead and then staring down. Doesn't even pay attention to the fact that you've walked in.
Fucking wine glasses,
I
right?
think we're fine then.
Wine glasses and beer steins.
What was that again?
Anthea.
I thought of the bartender. I was like, have you seen Arinthia?
Anthea.
Arinthia.
Yeah. None of us can get names right.
Aretha.
Yeah, she's upstairs sleeping.
Good. Alright, check on.
Should we?
What room is she in?
They're not numbered. I don't know.
Could you direct us to the room?
He just points to the stairs. He just points to the stairs and then just goes back to polishing their glasses.
Can I go and do like a sneaky, stealthy?
You want to try and get upstairs without being seen?
Yes, please.
Sure, go and make a stealth check.
Oh, you guys, this is my first stealth check as a rogue.
1.
Woo! Please don't. Please don't.
God damn it!
Slips and falls on the stairs.
Oh, that was so bad.
I can try and do it as
I have
well.
some elements down. Okay.
I've got
Everyone's just
10.
No, I have, I'm 20.
Oh, yeah, you're fine.
Because I have a 6 to stealth and I rolled a 14.
So you two both want to go up the stairs?
I mean, like...
Because this is the thing, is you don't know how stealthy you are. You're trying to stealth.
No, I tried.
Yeah.
I did try first.
So 10, and then at 20 you'd be following her up. So you would stealthily start to make your way up there. And he just kind of... Yeah. And he just kind of doesn't pay attention.
Oh, what do you know?
Oh, I wasn't trying to, like, be stealthy from him. I was trying to be stealthy so that, like, if there was anyone up there that, like, in the rooms that didn't know, like, I was trying to, like, go up and, like...
Okay, that's a different rule.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't care what... He knows we're going upstairs.
Okay.
Like, oh, I go this way?
Incinerates party.
The kid from Home Alone's upstairs.
Paint can starts sailing down the stairs.
Should be like, okay, I'll go upstairs now and try to sneak around. So I'll be sorry.
All right, so yeah, so you manage to make it up the stairs. There are definitely a few loose floorboards and creaks as you go up, and you kind of get to the top of the stairs and you start looking around a little bit. And then you just kind of come up beside her and go, I think the way's clear, and scares the shit out of you. Because you didn't hear her come up the stairs behind you at all. Didn't even know.
Amanda. That would happen to Amanda, too.
Yeah.
Fuck!
I look at Leaf and I'm just like, really?
I wonder what they're doing. Actually, I guess I wouldn't have seen you.
Playing dark tag.
No, this would be passive perception. You would all just be standing in the room, and then all of a sudden, Elite is just gone. You just kind of look around and like, oh, where did she go? And then you're passive. You kind of get to the top of the stairs, looking around a little bit. And you just kind of, Jesus, and she's just right there. So,
Head up the stairs as well. Or should we
Nope.
wait?
all right.
I'm waiting down
So
here.
at the top of the stairs, what would you guys like to do?
To stealthily look down.
Well, like, are the rooms?
Yeah, what do we see?
Top of the stairs, you see that there are a total of 2 rooms on either side, and then 1 room at the end of the hallway that appears to have a lock on it. The ones on the sides, none of them have locks.
Are the doors all shut?
Doors are all shut. It's still fairly early. It's only, at this point only about 11 a.m., give or take.
Okay. I mean, like, if the stealth check still holds, I can start, like, opening doors to look at them.
Until you speak, cast a spell, make an attack, your stealth roll holds.
Okay, I'm just gonna start peeking indoors to see if I can see Anthea.
Sure.
Or if I can see, I'm also interested in finding those women if they're here or not.
Sure. So, which door would you like to start with? Do you want to split up, or do you want to look in the same door?
I am not aware of my role.
You're not aware. You think that you're stealthy,
Why-
but you know that Alith was stealthier than you.
Yeah.
Okay, I will let Alith go forward.
Okay.
But I'm gonna kind of, like, silently gesture towards the door at the end with the lock on it.
Sure.
I mean, I don't have any lockpicking abilities, so that'll still be.
I know. It's more of like I'm like gesturing as a question, like.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I think she's like.
yeah.
Is something gonna go happen?
I mean, she's more likely to be in one of these other doors if we're still sticking. I feel like your character sees a locked door, and you're like, what's in there?
Absolutely, that's exactly what it is. So I'm kind of like being like, let's start look. Like, we can't really tell.
You don't want to pass by that door without looking at it.
Well, it's at the end of the hall.
Yeah.
Let's start checking these doors. But like, I've also like been like, hey, this one's locked. None of the rest of them are. Is what I'm saying. Like,
Right.
that is interesting.
Might be something interesting there. Okay, yeah, let's just check through the other rooms for Anthea and see if we can actually see if she's really here.
Downstairs.
Downstairs. Or
So which one would you like to start?
Let's start on the left.
First one on the left. Okay, so you go ahead and silently open the door. Go ahead and make a sleight of hand check
A gentle soul.
Sleight of hand.
to try and open the door without any sound.
Oh, okay.
13?
13? Okay. So you kind of just... and then push the door open. The room appears to be empty. It's a single bed. Not made. Like, definitely looks like it's been slept in and hasn't been taken care of, but no one currently sitting in the room.
Okay.
Perhaps we should
Second
discuss
door
our
to the
rich
left.
lore and
Second one on the left. Okay, so making your way closer to the end of the hall. Yep. Go ahead and make another sleight of hand check.
Rich tapestry.
It's 12.
12. Okay. Same thing, just a very slight as you open the door slightly and look in. This bed does appear to be made, but there's a layer of dust on it, like it hasn't been used in quite some time.
Okay, first door closest to the hall, like to the entrance on the right.
Yep, good. Sleight of hand check.
9.
9. Okay. So with this one, you kind of jiggle the handle a little bit, and then just kind of, and then just push open the door a little bit, and you do notice that there is a small lump on the bed. You're not exactly sure what, but it's about the size of Anthea.
Is there any like gray hair or anything I can see?
It appears to be fully covered by blankets. It's kind of odd, actually. Like a pillow kind of over the top of the head kind of thing, but there are multiple pillows.
Okay, I'm still stealthing. I'm just gonna go peek around the bed to see if it's really her.
Sure. So you kind of just step inside, and then just kind of lift up the pillow slightly. It's her.
Okay, great.
She's just passed out, and a little bit of drool on the on the pillows. Like, definitely does not look conscious in any way.
Okay.
Well, she's had a good time.
Yeah, I like sneak back out and like close the door and be like,
Charades in the
yeah.
hallway.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't think so, really, but maybe we can come down. This is like we can like, if we're stuck in this town again, we can come back and be like, I think it probably
I
has
agree.
something to
I
do with
agree.
ladies.
I was just more like,
It's what your character would do.
one of them is locked.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, I agree, but I think we should probably.
Yeah, let's go.
So overall, that wouldn't have taken us very much time, but if we started being like, what's in here?
Yeah.
Nobody's
I
having a
agree.
drink. It's still early in the
Yeah.
morning. You'd go upstairs. You'd be done in under 5 minutes.
Okay, let's
Alrighty.
let's wrap up.
I feel like I really know you
So
guys
nothing
better after
happened?
that next conversation.
Basically,
We've
yeah.
learned a lot.
They stepped in. You found Anthea, like unconscious on the bed, drooling. So that's about all you really know.
Pretty good.
All right,
Alrighty.
back to the mansion to fetch our erstwhile patrons.
Can I see where Leaf
She's right there.
went?
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Back again.
Just kind of looking around the room. I don't know. Oh, I must have missed
Aurora
her.
like stumbles down the stairs. Hey guys.
So, do you guys want to head back to the mansion, or do you want to check the
Tries to
way out?
lean on the like
Check
the
the
wall, but like misses the
Is
corner
there
and
any other
falls.
minor
Coolest
NPCs we
joke
want
I
to
feel like we should probably check the roads.
Yeah, I think we're
before we
supposed.
go
It's meant what we're meant to do before we go.
You know,
to
the mission.
It's like 4:30 in the afternoon.
Just checking. You guys are level 1. I'm your reminder. It's all good.
Hanging out.
No, we're gonna check the roads.
Alrighty, so making your way through the cobblestone streets of the village to ensure the exit is clear heading west, the road eventually leads to a row of dilapidated dwellings, all with their windows boarded up and the inside stone cold. From your journey in the day before, you recognize a single tall home at the end of the street that was the first building you walked past to get into the village. But now, walking a little bit closer, you see 2 small children crouched low outside the front door, and you hear soft whimpering as they huddle together. Looking beyond them, you see that the once clear road ahead instead lays blocked by a thick fog.
Oh, we should have asked what's his face about the fog. He said he found people lost in the fog. That they had died from the fog.
Which one was that?
Well, in the
Donavich.
Oh, that asshole.
I think that shit's
yeah,
so-
Ishmar.
I have a feat to control fog.
Oh!
Oh yeah.
You get that at level 1? I think you get that at higher level.
Is that a 3rd level?
I'm pretty sure it's higher
I
level.
thought there was one of them that was natural.
Double checking.
I can control
Okay.
like some elements.
You can cast fog cloud, so you can
Right.
create fog. You can't control it.
I'll create
At
fog.
3rd level, you do
Yeah, I will battle your fog with more fog.
At 3rd level, you can cast Gust of Wind with the fog, so to kind of like move it places. And then at 5th level, you can make it turn into solid wall of water.
Right.
Basic
You
Pokemon.
guys is really good at vaping.
That's cool.
Basically, yeah, you vape successfully.
Alright, super hard.
Yeah. And then pretty soon it's going to be like doing the vape tricks of like creating.
So there's 2 crown children.
Dubstep music playing.
Those are like ships.
Sure, you bring out.
Anything strange about those kids?
The children, there's an older boy who seems to be a little bit taller, and then a younger girl who is definitely huddled to crouched really low, and the boys kind of seem to be kind of hugging the girl. They're dressed in very similar garb to what everybody else has been wearing. The one exception is that the boy has got a cloak of some kind, like a slightly dark red one that's pulled a little bit high up over his, or the sides of his neck and over the front of his face. But they're in full view of sunlight and just kind of
They seem okay. I want to talk to the kids.
Okay. After shushing the girl, the boy turns to your party. There's a monster in our house.
Settle down, son. What's your name?
My name's Thorn.
Hello, Thorn. My name is Dr. D'Amato Shenanigans, PhD. What's the monster inside your
That's a
house?
silly name.
Thank you, Thorn. I went to medical school, but no big deal.
We don't have
What's
one of
going
those
on in your
here.
house?
We don't have one of those here.
What's going on in your house, Thorn?
There's a monster inside. My sister and I are really scared. We haven't seen our parents, and we think that they're inside.
What kind of monster was this? What did it look like?
I don't know.
This kid suspicious? Am I picking up anything weird?
We just heard it howling inside. Our parents, they managed to trap it in the basement, but they haven't come out.
I suggest we find out what's on this kid's neck before we trust what he says.
Yeah.
Sure. So he's standing up at this point, and the little girl is kind of like huddled up against him, like looking up at you guys, just really wide-eyed and scared.
Somebody else should probably approach these kids because the drow is going to scare the shit out of them.
Alright. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Kids, it's me, the doctor. I'm a doctor, and I like to help people.
We're scared by doctors.
Well,
Why are you here? We haven't had a doctor in a really long time. We don't want to talk to you.
Do you know Irene?
Oh my god.
And they just instantly get scared by the devil spawn tiefling that's in front of them, and just kind of
kids,
Don't worry. I kneel down and go,
and they just start crying, and then you like kneeling down, like giant blue man in front of them.
I'm going to try to and I'm going to be like, it'll be like, it's okay.
And they just like seeing the only human in the party
yeah.
just flock to you and
Okay.
like jump into your chest.
And I'm gonna, at that point, I'm just gonna
Let's
kind of
hang
look
back,
at all of you
everyone
guys
else.
and be like, oh, fuck.
That fucking human.
There's children. Don't say that.
She said a bad word.
Yeah,
She
I
said
did.
a bad word.
There are
You
certain
can't say that
times-
word.
There
It's
are
a bad
certain
word.
times you can say bad words. It's okay. I'm going to like.
Fuck.
Yeah! That's my boy. Good work, Thorn.
Where's your house?
So, and, like,
And they just kind of look up at the house that's right beside them. It's
you
a
guys said like,
three-story house.
yeah. You guys were. You said that there was like.
So there's a long dark red cloak, and it's kind of pulled up over the sides of the face and around the back of the neck.
Okay.
So you kind of just get like this view of the face, kind of thing.
This one's on
So
you,
like,
Laura.
like Doctor Strange.
Yeah, similar,
Okay.
similar, but like pop collar Doctor Strange.
And
There's no other Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange would be a
No,
fat
like
be like
hard pop, not like not the one that's like out to here. It's like the slapping
like
his
ultimate
face hard
crappy,
pop collar.
like ultimate like douche.
Exactly,
Okay.
ultimate. Yeah,
Right.
they're
Okay.
looking at 3 popped collars level
Oh
of
my God.
solid.
Attain
What I'm
ultimate
gonna
chat.
say is like they're looking. They looked kind of cold, right?
No, they're just shuddering. They're like
Okay.
scared, kind of
Okay.
shaking.
I'm gonna try to be like, oh, like it looks like your little sister's a little bit cold. Maybe we can put your cloak on her.
He just kind of
Okay.
and he just reaches around and undoes the cloak from his neck, and then there's kind of a nice actually gold clasp that goes across it, the gold chain. And he undoes one side of the gold chain and then reveals and no markings of any kind.
Okay.
Just looks like fair skin.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'll kind of like
And
be like, oh,
the
that's so
cloak
nice,
is
and like
massive on his little sister. She is quite
Yeah.
small for a 7-year-old, and so you
I bundle that up.
use it kind of like a blanket and like wrap it sideways around her. Kind of thing.
Why
okay.
does this little kid have such a fancy cloak?
Oh, we'll get it. Don't worry.
Oh, we'll get it.
Okay.
Fanny for my baby.
Taking cloaks from children.
Yeah.
I'm just quiet.
What can you tell me about? I'm kind of like crouched down. Like, what's the fog over here? What is that about?
The fog comes in every once in a while. We just know that we're not supposed to go in it because there's bad things in the fog.
In the meantime, I'm kind of checking out the house and seeing if I can hear anything coming from the inside.
Okay.
Well, children aren't really released pay.
Yeah, so we're just checking the road.
Can
We don't
we
have our friends
check
with us,
out
right?
the-
Okay.
Sorry?
We don't have this.
We don't
You don't have these marker irene. You guys have gone ahead to check the road, and you've noticed that the road is blocked by fog,
Okay.
and that there's these 2 kids in front
And
of your
there's-
house.
Okay.
This is the only road out.
It's the only road out.
Right.
It's the one that you took coming in. It's just that apparently this morning there's some heavy fog there.
Okay, I'm
Can we use our? Can we see if vision through the fog?
You can go and make a perception check if you'd like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, anybody who has dark vision can make a perception check.
Chief.
I'm gonna like pick up the little girl and
21.
say,
She kind of like nuzzles into your neck a little bit.
I got 7.
I'm gonna kind of like to you guys be like, all right, like we have to go and let them know that the way is blocked. But also, like we don't really have time to deal with whatever's in the basement, so we're gonna take the kids with us.
Okay. So
to the house.
Did
Yep.
I see anything?
So as you're looking ahead in the fog, you're kind of peering in a little bit, and you don't see anything per se. And you kind of get a little bit closer to it, and you just start to hear very slight, just kind of coming from inside the fog, but you can't see anything.
If I can't see anything, I can't use divine sense either.
So holding the little girl, you turn around to look back at the way back to the center of town, and you notice that that is also now blocked by fog. You can't see further past, and you can't see the inn any longer. And noticing, actually, you especially kind of looking at it and like paying attention to this, it's kind of odd. And then you look down at the ground, and you actually notice that the fog is starting to creep in a little bit towards you guys. And same thing for you holding the little girl. She's just kind of nuzzled into your neck, just ignoring everything, but you notice that the fog, that houses that were visible are slowly starting to become covered by the fog.
I think we need to go.
We need to go into this house.
Well, can we try and get through the fog back to the mansion, or is it too dense in the way? What do you guys think? Like, we could try and just make it through, but
We do go the way.
No, the amount of times that we've been told that the fog will
That's true. That's a bad.
Doesn't the mansion the other way though?
So you guys have gone.
behind
You
us.
guys have gone west.
Yeah,
The mansion
fog.
would be back to the middle of town and due south, and the fog is starting to just creep in like this.
And it's super thick.
Okay.
You essentially you see a house, and you just start to see like the house almost get eaten by fog.
So their house has the monster in it.
Their house, they say that there's a monster in their house. Yeah.
I think we gotta get into that house.
One,
Yep.
All of us against one monster is better than the fog monsters. So.
yeah, I think you're right.
Yep. Unless, is there any house that
Doesn't have a monster.
doesn't have a no, like
There are
anyone that-
other houses around if you'd like to try and
Keep in
take
mind,
refuge.
though,
It's up to you.
These kids might have supply.
If there's something that's going to keep undead creatures from coming past a doorway, it has to be an inhabited house. So we don't live in any of these abandoned houses. Whatever it is,
These kids do.
these kids do live in this house. So even though there might be a creature in there, it will probably be a safer place for creatures from the outside not to come in.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's 6
Yeah.
of us.
I put my shield back
That's right.
and my long sword, and I go. To the
Well,
house.
Okay.
I mean, I think that you should stay farther away from the kids.
Well,
So
I-
you're
But-
comforting the little girl
yeah.
at this point, and the boy is like attached to your leg,
Okay.
like holding on to one of the.
No.
So wait, I'm trying to remember. Do you have daggers or hand axes? What's on your waist?
I have 2 daggers.
2 daggers. So he's kind of holding on to one of the daggers,
Oh no. Okay.
like a
So
like
can
a
I- can
belt
I be
loop
like-
kind of thing.
Will you let us in your house if we help with the monster? Thorin? What is his name?
Thorn.
Thorn.
Yeah.
Thorn.
He's a real thorn in their side.
Thorn.
Yes.
Your side.
Literally a thorn in my side.
But see, I go first because we don't need permission to go in.
We could have
But
killed him.
also, if there's a monster, I'm most protected.
Yeah.
So Thorn just kind of like looks up at you and just goes, "Yeah, you can go inside. Like just save our parents, please, please."
I try.
All right. In we go.
So, looking ahead, a rusty gate left slightly ajar and a small fenced porch on the ground floor of this 4-story building. Substantially larger than most of the other ones in the area, actually. The houses beside and across the road are all the typical fare you've seen before. Clearly abandoned, boarded up windows with layers of dust visible on wooden planks, indicating how long they've been in place. This one, very similar, but not quite the same layer of dust, like there does appear to be a little more coming and going from inside the house. They essentially attach to you, the little girl and Thorn at your side, walk up onto the porch, and then he just kind of reaches up for his sister and like gets her, it pulls her down from you, and then just kind of like stands outside and we can't go inside. Not while the monster's there.
Okay, I'm gonna crouch down and be like, the fog is coming. Do you see?
And they kind of like look around and just nod at it and
Okay.
look back at you.
We're gonna go in. We're gonna try to take care of the monster. Come inside in, like, before the fog gets too close.
Okay. and they kind of go along the porch and close the iron gate behind them, pulling everybody in once everyone's inside. And then there are a couple of chairs and benches out on the porch, and they just kind of sit on the bench, and like he just grabs his sister and holds her close against him.
Can we find out if there's a room that we can quickly move into as soon as we're into the room?
Oh yeah, I'll kind of like pop down and like tell me about your house. Can you tell me what it looks like inside?
They certainly
No, like the kid. Can you tell me so that before we
No, I
actually
know.
go in? Okay.
That's fine. Sorry.
I certainly can. We just to try and remember from my visual acuity.
Kids don't know the word acuity. Kill them.
Yeah. You're not 7.
I'm going to tell you what I see.
That's more like
When you go inside, there's a hallway and a door, and you go through the door, and then there's a bunch of different ways you can go. There's a staircase that goes up, and then there's like a little closet. We used to play games and hide in there, and then there's another room. And that was one that we weren't really allowed to go into. And the one on your right. And then there's a dining room. We used to eat food, play games and things. And yeah, there's a lot of places. It's a big house.
Okay.
What about the basement? Sorry, you should ask him what about the basement.
How do you get
there's
to
no
the
basement.
Okay, where was the monster? Where did your parents lock the monster?
Oh, right. Sorry. The monster. Well, there is a basement. We just don't know how to get to it. We don't know. Yeah. I'm sorry. We just don't know where.
kid telling the truth.
Okay.
Make an insight check, like you can as well.
Ooh. 17 plus 2, so 19.
15. Seems to be being pretty honest. They don't seem to know where the entrance to the basement is. They just know that there's the one room that they weren't really allowed to go into, which is on the right side when they went in.
Okay.
I was going to suggest if there's that, like under the stair space, that's their usual hiding space. Maybe that would be the safest for them to go into. Most comfortable.
Okay.
But should we?
Yeah, I don't know if we should leave them outside in the fog.
Yeah, I think we should all.
Okay. Thorn, we're gonna go through. I'm gonna stay with you at the back, and as soon as we get to the closet, you guys are gonna hide in the closet because you would normally hide in the closet. Remember? You play games and hide there. Can you do that again for me?
But we can't go in while the monster's there.
We're gonna clear everything and make it all
No,
safe, and
no,
then
we can't. We can't go in while he's there.
well, he's there.
The monster.
The monster.
Yeah.
You know there's monsters outside too.
And they just kind of start looking around, like really scared, and seeing a blue fish man. And they just start grabbing onto you again. Just please, just
Seems
please,
like we're burning fog lights.
please.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Let's get in there and kill
I'm
him.
We're
getting
gonna get
tired
you-
of this.
We're gonna.
Keep the door open. I go in.
Okay. So the door just blows in. There's no resistance. The door's not locked. You essentially just break whatever hinge was there.
Now we can't close it behind us.
I'm still going through it.
Okay, I follow through next. Long sword and shield still ready.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
So, a wrought iron gate with hinges on one side and a broken lock on the other guard the archway of the stone porch, which you've now walked up. The gate creaks loudly as the rusty hinges are closed, and then two unlit oil lamps from the ceiling. Two unlit oil lamps hang from the ceiling by chains inside a small entrance room, flanking a set of slightly ajar oaken doors.
Can we light those?
Are you trying to force the kids to come inside? Because they're being pretty adamant they do not want to go in the house.
I ain't gonna force them. I'd rather have my rapier in my hand than a child.
Okay, so you pull out your rapier.
We can use the child as a weapon.
You can throw the child at the monster, and then I can.
No, I'm
stay
not gonna
close.
try them, but I am gonna say if the dog gets too close, come inside and hide in the closet.
Okay. And they just kind of...
Okay.
And then go from there. Okay. So, stepping through the doors, you step into a much grander foyer.
Sorry.
Cosplay is not consent.
No, it isn't.
It is not. You step into a much grander foyer with a surprising amount of ornamentation visible, way more than any other place you've seen before. Hanging on the left wall, for instance, is a shield emblazoned with a coat of arms crest featuring a stylized golden windmill on a red field. On either side of this shield, framed portraits of stony-faced aristocrats hang slightly askew on the wall, and a set of mahogany double doors stand closed on the opposite side of the room. So you kind of walked into a little foyer entrance hall that they told you about.
Okay.
The other set of doors is what leads into the larger room with the staircase.
Can
wanna, like,
quickly do
all
a
this.
history check or anything like that on the windmill to see if we recognize it?
On the crest? Sure, yeah, go and make a history check. You kept it on the table. It counts.
Bollocks,
8. It's a crest. It's a family crest. That much you would know. You just don't know anything about the family or notice anything that would stand out to you as something you'd recognize.
I have my bow pulled out and notched.
Okay, knocked. Got it.
So it's Les leading us at the present, is
Yeah,
that correct?
that's right.
And I'm second.
So real quick, lighting the lamps with tinderbox.
Sure. So you pull out your tinder blocks and light up the lamps. So the lamps are just held by chains from the ceiling. So you light those 2 up and they spread a good amount of light. It opens up the room entirely.
I'll also
Do you want
summon
a
my
torch?
dancing lights and just let them kind of like gently float around
Not
the
a
room
big
and
fan
everything.
of water, but earth by fire, but sure.
Gotcha.
Thinking
Are you guys closing or kind of like levering the door back into place behind
actually,
you?
If anything's broken,
Yeah.
can I cast mending?
You certainly
Like,
may.
it's the- so
Yeah, so he broke one of the hinges.
That is a cantrip.
Yeah.
Yes! We will
Mending.
use that lot.
So yeah, so you kind of busting open the door and getting a little antsy for a fight at this point. You kind of follow up behind him and just, I got this. And then you just mend the door and the hinge and the lock and everything kind of fits back into place and you're able to fully close the door now.
It happens when you're big.
So is there any like drawers, things floating around this hallway?
No, so the hallway is just a bare hallway.
Big
Two,
bare hallway.
the 2 lamps, and then on the left you've got the big shield and then the 2 framed portraits.
Can we see where the children would usually hide?
This is just a hallway, so you guys haven't gone through the doors on the other side yet.
Okay, well we should probably do that.
Has the info been relayed to us from the kids?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So,
Opening the second set of doors?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. A wide hall runs the width of the house. Looks to be about 60 feet long. With a black marble fireplace on the left side and a sweeping red marble staircase on the other. 3 doors are on the opposite side of the room, 2 mounted inside a little alcove. Excuse me. Mounted on the wall above the fireplace is a long sword with a windmill cameo worked into the hilt, and wood panels along the walls are ornately sculpted into images of vines, flowers, nymphs, and satyrs. So very
Like the
whimsical
fireplace.
obelisk. Okay, so you go over, and the fireplace is dead stone cold. There's charcoal in there, but there isn't really any wood per se. If you had wood, you would be able to light it, but currently there's not enough in there.
House.
It's a surprisingly fancy. You haven't been in any houses except for the mansion, but this place almost looks nicer than the town master's mansion.
Yeah, this place is like
It's pretty nice in here.
Okay. Is there any silver in this room?
Or holy symbols.
Holy symbols, no. Silver in this room, you're not sure. The sword might be, but it's currently just sitting on the wall.
I would take that sword. I mean, I'm not going to because I have no use for it.
Okay.
But it's
I don't think I have a. I mean, yeah.
I'm going to look at that sword.
Okay. So going up against the wall, everybody kind of, trying not to decide. You just walk over and take it off the wall. Yeah. Okay. So
Is there any, sorry, real quick, any torches, lanterns, anything in this room?
There's a few candelabras with unlit candles. You would be able to light those
Okay. I
on
would
small
light
desks
those.
and things. Okay, so it lights up the room fairly well. There's nothing really of note beyond that. If you kind of just imagine like hall tables,
Yeah.
so no drawers of any kind, but just things that you can put things on.
Yeah, just things.
Yeah, smaller portraits on there, a vase of kind of wilted flowers, things like
I
that.
recognize any of the, like, are the kids in the pictures?
Based on what you've seen, the kids are not in the pictures so far. The 2 that entered in, there were 2 aristocrats. You would guess maybe their parents.
Yeah.
And then in this room, there's 1 family portrait, and the kids are in that. They look almost identical to what you saw outside. Actually, the same outfits as what you saw they were wearing outside.
Sorry, just me talking out
Okay.
loud. Okay, so sword, less.
Okay, so Les, you kind of reach up for the sword, and you go to grab it off the wall, and it's kind of stuck there a little bit. Like, you really try and lever it out. Go ahead and make an athletics check if you'd like to try and pull it off the wall.
I sure would.
Dead kids over this in this house.
Les,
Yeah.
I feel like that might be.
You rolled
6
6
plus 3.
plus 3, 9. So you're really just tugging on it. It seems to be stuck pretty well. Like there's iron that's kind of been wrapped around the hilt, and it seems to be nailed into the wall. Iron further up the thing. You'd really need to find a way to kind of lever it out, or just get somebody who's got a better grip.
Give me a hand with this thing.
Yeah, sure, I can help it out. And I guess while it's walking over, I guess sort of noticing if anything's sort of off. I guess maybe being attuned to any sort of magic or any arcane stuff. Maybe sensing or trying to, feel if there's anything like physically, like he's feeling anything amiss. Is that something that might be?
Not really. Like you're kind of actively looking around. Like this place is giving you a bit of the creeps, especially as a cleric, and you're just kind of looking around, and then you're like, it's just creepy. Like everything that's here seems like, given everything you've seen in the rest of the village, has no reason to be here. But it's in good condition. There's very little dust on anything. It's just odd. It blends in and yet sticks out.
Not to mention those kids are in the same clothes and the portions they were outside.
But I mean, is it because the place is just like drab and people don't care about getting new clothes?
Or like it's the nice clothes that they have.
Anyways, I'll help with the sword.
The sword? Okay.
Yeah.
Kevin, I'll get you to go ahead and make another athletics check with advantage now.
Oh, if he's doing this, I say I can.
Well, you're helping him do it to give him advantage on the second roll.
Okay, yeah. So I can cast something.
Does it look like there is anything else of value in this room?
Go ahead and make a perception check.
I'm gonna do one as well.
Sure.
Roll a 17.
17.
Oh, 22.
22. So you kind of
20.
eventually levering off and just kind of, and you finally actually manage to just kind of put your fairly large fingers. You kind of just manage to pull it out enough to kind of get a proper hook in behind it and kind of, perfect. Right as you two look at everything and you just hear a shink, I need you to make a Constitution saving throw for me.
Oh no.
Yes.
Friggin' guy.
Ooh. That's a natural one.
Okay.
Oh no.
It's
Here
my
we go.
first damage roll of the entire campaign.
Ghouls.
I'm not gonna name anything, guys.
Hey!
Just as a heads up to everyone,
You take
it is quarter to
1 point.
Oh!
On a D8, 1 point of necrotic damage.
This man, you got lucky.
1 point of necrotic damage as you kind of
It's nothing matters.
rip the sword out of the wall and just kind of and you just feel the hilt just release a into your hands, and your hands just start to wither slightly, and you push through it and you manage to hold on to the blade, and it seems to have abated, but whatever that was, like you look at your hands and you've got like black, almost burn scorch marks.
Oh god, I smell delicious.
No fire,
It's like
no.
slightly cooked.
It's not even cooked. It's just like as if your flesh just started decaying in your hand.
God damn it!
But you are now holding the sword, and it doesn't appear to be hurting you anymore.
Oh.
So what? I guess I was kind of holding your back. So you're all good.
Damn, could have killed someone right there. If that was
Why you
anyone
seem
with you.
severely disappointed?
I leave.
That's my job.
This sword.
Not your job to kill us, it's your job to help us tell an awesome story.
I want to give it a once over.
Exactly. By killing you.
You have to take magic, right?
Yeah, actually, yeah. No,
I love it.
Actually, yeah. So if I'm taking if I see that whole thing go down.
So you would just kind of see that and just kind of helping him and like helping him pull it off. You essentially was able to get it to the point where he could then rip it out, and you kind of go, "You got this," and then he just rips it off, and then, and it's just like little bits of green are kind of coming up out of his hand, and then black necrotic marks across his palms.
I guess seeing that, you asked, I'm gonna cast detect magic just to kind of see if I can sense any sort of magical essence on it. And I guess I think it's you sense the presence of magic within 30 feet of you.
Ooh.
Yep.
So
And it's for a while, right?
Yeah,
It's 10 minutes.
Yeah, 10 minutes.
10 minutes, yeah. So you kind of, after seeing that and realize, oh shoot, and then weaving your signs and holding your holy symbol, you then release the magic. And looking around, kind of looking for magical essence, you see a faint, lingering magical essence on the pommel of the blade and on the wall, as if they were tied in some way. And then that slowly starts to fade. Like whatever it was has now been expended, essentially a minor trap to prevent the blade from being physically yanked off the wall.
Do I notice anything about the blade at all?
It's a nice blade. It's a standard longsword. It's got the windmill inlay gold filigree into the pommel, into the the hilt. But other than that, it's just a relatively nice sword.
And is it silver?
It is not silver.
Okay.
It's just standard iron.
Well, you got
Standard
a nice
iron longsword.
sword. That's fine, right? You sword?
It's okay, buddy. You got a sword.
Do you want to bust up that?
Yeah, let's bust up that.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to clarify, so you guys are in the room now. There is one door directly across from where you entered in.
Yeah.
There's one door almost immediately on your right, up against the wall that's there. There is the staircase over on the far end of the room, red marble one. There is a small secondary door that they described as the place that they would hide. Okay. So you're guessing maybe a cloakroom of some kind. And then there's a little alcove with 2 additional doors on that side. So you've got a total of 6 ways that you can go.
I think we check the closet just to be safe.
I think
like
that's
where
a
the
good idea.
kids hide. And we check the other door next to the fireplace.
I mean,
Okay.
maybe we need to
So-
go to the door eventually that they said that they could never.
Before we do that, I'm going to quickly jump back. I forgot about your perception checks. I apologize.
Oh, yeah.
So looking around the room, you eventually have your eyes drawn to the intricate designs along the wall. Everything that was the ornately sculpted pieces of the vines, the flowers, the nymphs, and the satyrs. And the vines and flowers inconspicuously weave into each other. They form large images. And then you actually realize that kind of stepping back and looking at it a little bit, the images, in addition to these fairly nice, natural, kind of elvish-inspired things, you actually notice that the larger images of massive serpents and skulls, and it actually forms into these very, very intricate, from a fine detail, gorgeous pieces, but then huge, like the whole room is also almost one giant skull and serpent kind of crawling in all the different recesses of it.
Does it look familiar at all? Is it a
with
symbol?
that motif.
Go ahead and make history checks for you two. Yeah, you were the ones who noticed it, so you get to make those.
2, I got nothing.
That 5.
Stop rolling with it.
2 and a 5. They're just very. They're just there. They're like all the intricate details are very pretty. Even the way that the skulls and the serpents are designed is quite attractive, but it's just not. You kind of looking at it initially, you're like, oh yeah, this is really quite nice, and then stepping back, you're like, oh,
This is the thing.
this
Nice.
is something else.
Some
And
magic
creepy.
creature.
Okay.
We're in Hill House, you guys.
Let's look at that. Let's look at that closet. Let's check out that little closet where the kids hide.
Okay.
We can look in there.
Would anybody like to check for traps?
Yeah, I'm gonna check for traps.
So, just so everybody's aware, checking for traps is an investigation check.
Then then no, I would not like to check.
Can I wander over?
What do you
I
have
think
on
I
that?
still have detect
2
magic.
plus 2. And plus 1.
Oh, yeah.
I still have detect magic kit.
Yeah.
So can I kind of wander over and see if I'm sensitive?
Yeah, so looking at the lock, you don't detect anything magical, but there are more than just magical traps. There are also mechanical ones. So you can go ahead and make an investigation check.
Quickly.
This is a
7.
7. It's not trapped.
Yeah. There's no traps for you guys. I didn't find anything.
You're
Probably
fairly
going.
convinced that there are
Yeah.
no traps.
Seems good.
Can you
Alright.
quickly
You
check
try and
all
open
of
the door?
doors?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you turn the knob. Door opens and swings outward. Fairly ordinary door. You open it and see several black cloaks hanging from hooks on the walls, and then a top hat resting on a high shelf.
Top hat.
That's for you, my man.
Anything? Can I check out that top hat? Something like that?
Does Leaf see it?
Sure,
glowing?
you can go and make it.
No, real quick. Real quick.
Detect magic.
Yeah, I got the
The top hat is not a magical top hat. Looking at it, you can make an investigation check, or you can just pull it down and look
I'm
at
gonna
it.
investigate that thing.
Go for
touch
it. Yep. So this is checking for traps in case.
Well, 3.
3. Not trapped. Yeah. Grab it straight off, and everybody else, and you just kind of. Very well made. It's actually a appears to be rabbit fur, like very, very nice. Yeah. So quite a nice piece.
While this is going on, can I kind of do? You said it's like 120 feet in the air. Can I kind of do like a perimeter sweep and just see if I'm getting any?
So it's 60 feet across,
60 feet.
30 feet wide. So you standing in the middle of the room can see everything. You don't seem to get any magical pieces.
Doctor
D'Amato shenanigans. There you go. It's pretty close, actually.
A doctor in hat.
I mean, it's not a top hat.
It's not a top hat?
Has flat
Has
hat.
flat
no,
hat?
this is a bowler.
Bowler, yeah.
Bowler.
But even so.
You look like a bowler.
That's a very nice bowler.
Oh, I can feel it.
Yeah.
So from there, I would just like to know where you guys would like to go next.
I think we checked that other door next to the
We've got
thing.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
So
Also,
this
just
is
as
where
a
we're
head-
going to be ending. So I just want to know where you guys want to go for 2 weeks from now, because this is going to be our big thing. Is you've got 5 doors to go through.
I think
So
each of
you
us should look into one room.
split the party. I like it. Let's do it.
That's a bad idea.
Split the party at level 1.
We're just looking into a room.
I think we checked the door next to the
But you've already
fireplace.
checked. It
Which door
detected
was
magic
which door was
around
that?
them.
Sorry, which?
So there's the door next to the fireplace.
So
Closet.
so
The
you guys
closet we
would
checked.
so you guys would walk in. There's one directly across.
Yes.
Closet.
Closet.
Little alcove.
Yeah.
2 doors. And then one that's on the opposite side, and then the staircase that goes upstairs.
I think we checked that alcove first.
There's 2 doors inside the alcove.
And we've got magic beacon here
You do?
to see if any
Probably for
doors-
about another 5 minutes or so.
If any doors seem to be shinier than
So you kind of walking around the room, none of the doors seem to trigger on a magical essence, none of them appear to be trapped.
But
At least
also,
not
like,
in a magical
the
way.
The detect magic,
Doesn't
you
work
can
for
just
us.
cast again.
I gotta wait, and I gotta have a short rest. So
Oh,
before. That is a racial ability.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's not a
Sorry,
It's
gang.
not an unlimited cantrip.
Oh no, it's not a cantrip, it's an actual spell.
That one's a spell?
Yeah, but this is a racial ability, so he just gets to cast it without using a spell.
Okay.
Like upstairs is gonna be trouble. We know that.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's check through these doors.
Okay.
Let's go
So
door.
it's up to you guys to decide which doors you want to go through for 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
So if you want to talk about it, figure it out.
So hang on.
This is where
Can
we're
we
going to be
go
ending
through
for today.
Each door again, so I can note it down.
Sure. So what I'll do actually is here. I'm gonna
Over to the
You're gonna
chat.
send us?
yeah. I'm gonna snapshot just the room that you're in, so you can see what your options are, and you can go from there.
So did we get like a quarter of the way down the big stuff you were just shooting for? Like,
Well, no. The big thing there was if you guys decided to go ahead with the Doru fight.
Oh, okay.
That was a whole thing. This is the start of the next thing that I was working on, and I got a good chunk of the way into it. And this is actually perfect because this is I've written like half of what the options
Your
are.
face when they were like, "Let's go to trapdoor," you're like, "Don't fucking."
I was just like looking around the table. I'm just like,
They're all gonna die.
they're all gonna die. Like they're all gonna die.
Even if they fought them in the
This is
sunlight?
sorry.
Even if they fought in the daylight?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, they're
He's-
so strong.
He deals 2d8 plus 6
Oh,
damage.
God.
You instantly
I'm
die
so
and could be
happy I said
permadead
something.
in one hit.
Yes, we go.
Like this was something where like you could theoretically trap him in a room with light and let the light kill him. That would be the only way you could ever kill him because he also regenerates. He's got all kinds of stuff like, yeah, you guys made the right call.
Well, listen, you're learning for next
So,
time with that information.
I don't care if I'm metagaming for my players. I want to keep this party alive. I like these people, so I don't want them dying level 1.
Oh. Well, I press any way you say considering you already were like taking glee and like,
Yeah, earlier you were like, it's my job to kill you.
Yeah, it's my job to kill you level 1.
Yeah, it's
Boring. Like when he said like, "Oh, I want to die," I'm like, really? You can't like stick it out to level 3, like get some stuff, and then everybody actually it matters when you die. When you died, everyone was just like, "Oh, that
Okay.
sucks." I guess. Well, no, he's not going to be out. Like it's Kevin. It's his house. Yeah. Okay. So he's fine. Well, what's his new character? Yeah. Okay. Cool. You're a Triton. Yeah.
what
Awesome.
was the name of
Or Jeffrey.
Giles Montgomery.
Yeah, I wrote it down.
I'm like, oh, the seed
Jeffrey
thing will be
Jeffrey
cool.
McMasters was what you changed it to.
Jeffrey McMasters, yeah. Okay, so this is the room that you guys are in. You can go ahead and check. Yep, you can go ahead and check Facebook. So you've got the little layout of the room that you are currently in, and the
I
cloak
feel
room
like
is
you need
the
to send that and like the pit onto their screens.
yeah.
The live stream, if that's out.
Is that what the map was for that one fight?
Yep.
Oh my god, that we would have not survived.
Nope. There were ways to do
So-
it. There and you'll have another Chad said it. He's
This
locked in
is-
the basement.
So bottom
So
left.
bottom left is where you came in.
Okay.
The one directly across is the first one that you haven't been in yet, and the one beside that is that little room. That's the cloak room.
Okay.
So that's the one where you got your top hat.
Top hat.
Correct.
Oh.
So you've got the staircase going up, the little alcove with the 2 doors, the one door directly on the side that you came in, and then the one on the opposite
Okay.
side.
Okay,
So-
hang on. Wait, we're in the room with the alcove. Is that correct?
No.
So
We're in
So
the
we're,
bottom
like, in
left-hand
here.
corner.
bottom left-hand corner is where you came in. You
So-
see the little cutout where there's
Right
the
here?
2 doors right beside each
Yeah,
other?
right here is where we went through.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this is the door to our right, staircase,
Oh,
little
so-
alcove,
with the two doors here. This is the cloakroom, and then this is the potential other door.
Okay.
Yeah. So you've got 4 doors and 1 staircase that you can decide from. It's up to you to decide what you would like to do, and that's going to be where we pick things up next week. Or no, 2 weeks, because we're
Yes.
taking a break next week.
Oh my
And-
god, can you live stream us the week? You have to wait 2 weeks till the night's done.
I know, right?
Who knows? We might leave the room.
We might
We
have
might get killed
no-
by vampires almost.
We might
We
do
might
something.
do something.
So guys, smash that like button, subscribe, hit us up.
Smash that like button and smash that subscribe button. And make sure you follow us for and hit the bell for those
Hit that bell
notifications.
so you know when we're gonna be back.
Exactly.
Hashtag
All
ad,
1 of you
hashtag
watching the stream.
spawn.
Yeah. All of. Is there anybody watching?
I think there was
Nation
1
and
person.
nation
It might have been me watching, but
That's true.
it showed that there was 1
Should
person
nominate us.
They come and go as the stream
as
goes
the stream
on.
goes on. Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of this room, I think we should go into the room directly across from us.
It, like, is a group
Yeah.
on a max?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, ours is gone, Kev.
Oh, one died. The other phone
I
died.
don't think we split up at level.
Oh,
1.
this phone died.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty
Shoot.
fair.
How long ago was that?
Also, I'm kind of a coward. I'm not splitting up.
All right, well, we're going to call things there. So this was episode 2, the first real episode of Dicecream Sandwich. And we're going to be making sure that all the phones are fully charged next time. And not losing cables in our backpacks, Kevin. Yeah, we look forward to doing this with you guys. Love you guys. Thank you. And we'll see you guys next time.